The wind moves across the desert like a living thing. It howls, it sighs, it carries secrets. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you are standing in the middle of that endless sea of sand. The horizon stretches forever, painted gold and crimson by the setting sun. The air is hot and dry, stinging your skin, yet the wind whispers, soft, haunting, and strange. It is as if the desert itself is trying to speak, trying to tell you stories older than memory. Stories of kings and dreamers, of lovers and wanderers, of treasures lost and voices that refuse to die. You hear it now, the whisper of the desert winds. And you cannot look away. This is not just sand and silence. This is the birthplace of legends. A place where nights are filled with stars so bright they seem close enough to touch. Where the heat of day can break a man, and the cool of evening can heal him again. The desert is harsh, but it is also beautiful. It has always been both, destroyer and protector, curse and blessing. And in its heart, in the shifting dunes and hidden valleys, humanity found its oldest stories. The Arabian Nights, tales whispered into the darkness, carried by voices like the wind itself. The people of the desert knew the power of stories. They did not build grand monuments of stone like the Egyptians, or sprawling cities of marble like the Romans. Instead, they built their monuments in words, in memory, in the kind of stories that survive even when walls crumble. The desert winds carry them forward, passing them from one campfire to another, from father to son, mother to daughter, and finally to us. Imagine a caravan in the dark. Dozens of camels swaying under the weight of silk, spices, and jewels. Men in flowing robes sit by the fire, their faces lit orange against the black of night. Beyond them, the desert is silent. No sound but the hiss of the wind over sand. And in that silence, a voice begins to tell a story. It might be about a fisherman who pulls up a sealed jar from the sea. Or a prince who falls in love with a girl hidden behind a veil. Or a sailor who finds an island that suddenly stands and roars, for it is no island at all but the back of a giant sea beast. The listeners lean closer. The fire crackles. The voice rises, then lowers, like the song of the dunes themselves. And for a few moments the desert is no longer empty. It is alive with magic. That is how the Arabian Nights were born. Not in palaces or libraries, but in deserts and markets, whispered into being by countless tongues. These stories did not belong to one man or one people. They came from Persians, Indians, Arabs, Egyptians, Jews, even Greeks. Like the winds, they crossed borders, slipping through cracks in history, gathering strength, changing shape. They were told, retold, and twisted until they became something greater than any single culture. They became the voice of a forgotten world. And yet, the greatest story of all is the one that holds the others together. The tale of Scheherazade. You know her name, perhaps. The woman who faced death with nothing but her words. The woman who became legend not by wielding a sword, but by weaving 1,000 nights of stories until dawn itself bent to her will. But before Scheherazade, before the king who listened to her, there was the desert wind. Always there. Always whispering. Think about it. The desert strips away everything. Food, water, shelter, gone in an instant if you are not careful. But what remains? Memory. Voice. The sound of one human being sharing with another. That is survival of a different kind. That is why these stories endure. Because they were never just entertainment. They were lessons, warnings, hopes. In the tale of the greedy merchant, you learned humility. In the tale of the brave sailor, you learned courage. In the tale of the lost princess, you learned longing and heartbreak. The desert gave little, but through story it gave everything. And oh, the desert itself was a character in these tales. Its burning sands, its hidden oases, its cruel mirages, all part of the stage upon which magic unfolded. Can you feel it now? The heat pressing down, the salt of sweat on your lips, the air tasting of dust and fire, the moon rising like a silver coin above black dunes. The desert is not silent at all. It is alive, humming, singing its eternal song. Many travelers feared the desert winds. They believed spirits lived in them. Jinn, creatures of smokeless fire, unseen but powerful. Some were said to be cruel, leading men astray until they died of thirst. Others offered wisdom or gifts beyond imagination. Even today, people in the Middle East tell stories of jinn who wander the deserts, their laughter carried on the wind. The same wind you hear when you stand alone at night, your heart beating fast, the emptiness pressing in. Now, think of the first time someone told the story of Aladdin. Perhaps not in the polished way we know it, with lamps and palaces and flying carpets, but raw, wild, filled with the crackle of fear and the shimmer of wonder. That story too was carried by the winds. It drifted from one city to another, crossing deserts and seas until it finally reached the west. And when it did, the world was never the same. Because these whispers became immortal. They outlived empires. They outlived kings. They outlived even the language in which they were first spoken. They have been told in tents and taverns, in books and theaters, on screens and stages. And still, when you hear them, they sound as though the desert itself is speaking directly into your ear. The whisper of the desert winds is not only sound. It is time. It is memory. It is every storyteller who ever lived, leaning close to say, listen. Do not forget. There is magic in the world and it belongs to you. And here we are, centuries later, still listening. We may no longer sit around desert fires. We may not ride camels across the dunes. But we still crave these stories. They still fill something deep inside us. They remind us of who we were, who we are, and who we dream of becoming. The desert winds will never stop. They will always carry whispers, whether of stories or of silence. And in those whispers, you will always hear the heart of the Arabian Nights, waiting to be told again. But this is only the beginning. For now that you have felt the whisper, you must hear the voice that followed it. The voice of a woman who dared to speak through the night, a woman who turned death into dawn, a woman whose name has become eternal. Her story is the doorway into 1,000 others. The palace is silent. Torches flicker against high stone walls, throwing long shadows across the marble floors. Outside, the night sky is heavy with stars, cold and bright above the desert. But inside, in the king's chamber, the air is tense, thick with fear and expectation. Tonight, a young woman steps into history. Tonight, Scheherazade will face death with nothing but her words. And as the clock of midnight strikes, she opens her mouth and begins to speak. Her voice is steady, soft, but it carries the weight of survival. This is not just a story, it is life against death, hope against despair. And the entire world will remember what she says. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine being her. You are Scheherazade. You are clever, wise, and brave, but you are also human. You know what waits at dawn. The king has sworn to kill you when the night ends, as he has done with every woman before you. Yet you walk forward anyway, your head held high. The room smells of burning oil and roses, faint but sharp. You hear the scrape of sandals on stone as guards take their places. And before you sits the king, stern, wounded, furious at the world. He believes no woman can be trusted. He believes all deserve punishment. Tonight you must change his heart. Tonight you must weave magic with nothing but words. How do you begin a story when your life depends on it? You do not rush. You do not stumble. You breathe in the silence. You let the fear sharpen your mind like a blade. And then you speak as if the stars themselves have given you their voices. This is the moment the Arabian Nights are born. Scheherazade does not invent this plan out of thin air. She has prepared her whole life for it. She has read histories and poems, studied philosophy and science, and learned every tale whispered by merchants, sailors, and travelers. She carries a treasury of voices inside her. And now, under the pressure of death, she opens that treasury. She begins with something simple, yet powerful enough to draw the king in. Once, she says, her words soft but clear, there was a merchant who had 3 daughters. The king shifts in his seat. He does not smile. He does not trust. But he listens. And that is enough. Scheherazade understands the first rule of storytelling. You must capture the listener with images so vivid, they forget the walls around them. She describes the merchant's house, filled with spices and carpets, where golden light spills through latticed windows. She describes his daughters, each with their own charm, each with their own secret dreams. The king leans slightly forward. His anger does not fade, but curiosity begins to stir. Her voice paints scenes like a brush paints canvas. You see the marketplace with its chaos of colors and sounds, the smell of roasted lamb, the cries of traders, the sparkle of jewels under the sun. You feel the tension when the merchant makes a fateful choice that will set the story into motion. And though you know this is only a tale, you cannot look away. Neither can the king. But Scheherazade is more than a storyteller. She is a strategist. She knows she cannot simply tell a tale and finish it. For if she reaches the end, the king will have no reason to spare her. So she does something daring, something genius. As the story reaches its most gripping moment, just as the merchant faces a trial, just as the question of fate hangs in the air, she stops. She lowers her voice. She looks at the king and says, "But my king, dawn is near, and if you permit, I will finish this tale tomorrow night." The king is startled. No one has ever dared to deny him an ending. He frowns, but something stirs inside him, something he has not felt in a long time. Curiosity. He wants to know what happens next. Against all reason, he spares her life. One more night, he thinks. One more chance to hear the end of the tale. This is how Scheherazade survives. Not with swords, not with armies, but with suspense. With the ancient power of leaving a door half open, a riddle unsolved, a question unanswered. She makes the king crave her words more than her death. And so begins the 1001 Nights. It is important to understand why this moment matters. Scheherazade does not tell stories just to save herself. She tells them to heal the king. He is broken, scarred by betrayal, consumed by rage. Every tale she offers him is a mirror, a lesson, a seed planted in the soil of his wounded heart. Some tales teach justice, others kindness. Some teach humility, others love. Slowly, night by night, she reshapes the mind of a man who thought he could never change. Think of the courage it took. Every night, she looked into the face of death. Every morning, she woke not knowing if she would live to see another evening. Yet she pressed forward. She believed in the power of story to transform even the darkest soul. And she was right. The first midnight tale is not just the beginning of a tradition. It is the beginning of redemption. For the king, for the kingdom, for us. It reminds us that stories are not decoration. They are survival. They are medicine. They are weapons against despair. Can you feel the chamber now? The tension between them, the king on his throne, stiff and skeptical, and the young woman before him, calm and unshaken. The air smells of smoke and sand carried in from the desert. The torches crackle. Outside, the wind presses against the walls like a restless spirit. Yet inside, a story grows. It takes root, branches upward, and blooms into something no sword can cut down. We live in a world that often forgets this. We scroll through endless distractions, losing the rhythm of true storytelling. But Scheherazade reminds us, a story can stop death in its tracks. A story can turn hatred into hope. A story can rebuild a broken heart. By the time her first tale closes, half told, left dangling in suspense, the king's world has shifted, even if only slightly. He does not realize it yet, but she has already won her first victory. She has turned his hunger for blood into hunger for words. And once that hunger awakens, it never fades. So ends the first midnight. A woman's voice against the silence. A story unfinished but alive. The king orders the guards to leave her unharmed, for now. He does not know why he spares her, but we do. We know the spell has already begun. As the torches die down and the first light of dawn creeps across the horizon, Scheherazade closes her eyes. She has lived one more night. And tomorrow she will open her mouth again, carrying a new tale, a new chance, a new thread in the vast tapestry of the Arabian Nights. This is the power of beginnings. One voice, one story, one midnight. And from it will grow 1001. And now, as her first tale fades into the silence of dawn, we turn to the next chapter of this journey, the stories themselves. For Scheherazade is ready to tell us of kings and palaces, of power and betrayal, of treasures hidden beneath the stars. She has survived the first night. Now she begins to weave the world. Imagine walking through a palace at night. The moonlight spills through high windows, glinting on marble floors polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. You hear the faint echo of sandals on stone, the rustle of silk robes, the whisper of guards speaking in hushed voices. And somewhere deeper inside, behind golden doors heavy with jewels, a king sits alone. His crown gleams, his robes are woven with silver threads, yet his eyes are heavy. Power surrounds him, but so does fear. In this moment you realize something profound. Palaces are not just homes of kings, they are prisons of power. The Arabian Nights remind us of this truth again and again. Kings appear in story after story, ruling over great cities, commanding armies, and holding lives in their hands. Yet beneath the glittering crowns lies something fragile. Doubt, suspicion, loneliness. These tales reveal the veil of power, not just its beauty but also its weight. Picture Baghdad, the jewel of the Abbasid Caliphate. At its heart stands the round city, built like a circle within walls that stretch for miles. In its center, the palace rises with domes that shimmer in sunlight, gardens filled with fountains, and rooms lined with golden mosaics. To enter such a place is to feel small, to feel the presence of power pressing on your chest like a heavy hand. But behind those walls, kings are men too. They eat, they dream, they fear betrayal. They are surrounded by riches, yet never free. Scheherazade knew this when she chose her stories. She understood that kings were not only rulers, they were listeners, hungry for tales that spoke to their hidden hearts. When she told of kings in her midnight tales, she was not flattering. She was teaching. She wove stories that mirrored their struggles, holding up a glass so they could see themselves more clearly. Think of King Shahryar, the man who listened to Scheherazade's first tale. He sat on a throne carved with lions, covered in silk cushions, guarded by men who would kill at a word. To outsiders he seemed untouchable. Yet inside he was broken, scarred by betrayal, chained to his rage. His palace glittered like the sun, but it could not heal his heart. That is the veil of power, it hides wounds behind walls of gold. The Arabian Nights are filled with such kings. Some are wise, others cruel, many foolish. Their palaces are vast and dazzling. You can almost hear the sound of fountains splashing in courtyards, smell the roses in hidden gardens, taste the honeyed sweets served on silver trays. Yet always, beyond the perfume and music, there is tension. Power is never safe. A king must watch his back, for betrayal might come from a trusted friend, a servant, even family. One story tells of a king who discovered a hidden kingdom beneath his own city, ruled by a monarch as proud and mighty as himself. Another tells of rulers who lost everything because they trusted the wrong advisor or gave in to greed. Through these tales, Scheherazade reminds Shahryar that power is fragile. A crown may shine, but it can slip in an instant. And what of the palaces themselves? They are characters too. Imagine a hall with ceilings so high you cannot see their end, painted with stars and constellations. Imagine doors of cedar inlaid with ivory, their handles shaped like roaring lions. Imagine carpets soft as clouds, imported from far lands, where every step sinks like walking on sand. These places were designed to awe, to make every visitor feel the vastness of the king's reach. Yet the same walls that inspire wonder also breed fear. For once you step inside, you are in the king's world. His guards, his rules, his judgment. But look closer. Beneath the luxury lies emptiness. A king may sit in a hall filled with music, dancers twirling in silks, the smell of roasted lamb thick in the air, and yet he may feel utterly alone. For power isolates. It builds walls not only of stone but of silence. Few dare to speak truth to a king. Few dare to remind him that he is mortal. That is why Scheherazade's words were so dangerous and so precious. She dared to pierce the veil. The veil of power is not only about kings. It touches everyone who enters the palace. Ministers who plot in shadowed corners. Servants who bow and whisper, careful not to anger their master. Guards who stand still for hours, their hands sweating on spear shafts. Each life is shaped by the weight of the throne. And each story of the Arabian Nights shows us how power ripples outward, touching even those who think themselves far from its grasp. But there is something else. Palaces are not just prisons. They are also dreamscapes. They are the stage where wonders unfold. How many tales speak of hidden rooms filled with treasure, of secret passages leading to adventure, of gardens where magic beings appear. Power may be dangerous, but it also creates the space for marvels. In these palaces, a fisherman might dine with a king. A slave might outwit his master. A poor traveler might discover riches beyond belief. Scheherazade understood this balance. Her stories never denied the beauty of power. They described palaces with such detail that listeners could almost see the diamonds sparkling in candlelight. But they also revealed the dangers of pride, the cruelty of greed, the loneliness of rulers who forgot compassion. In this way her tales became more than entertainment. They were lessons wrapped in silk, delivered night after night until even Shahryar began to see the truth. Close your eyes and listen. You hear the call of drums echoing in palace courtyards. You hear the cry of a muezzin rising above the city walls at dawn. You smell incense burning in long corridors, drifting through carved screens of cedarwood. You feel the cool touch of marble under your bare feet as you walk through halls lit by 1,000 lamps. This is the world of kings and palaces, the world Scheherazade painted with her words. And yet, the veil of power always lingers. No matter how bright the lamps, shadows cling to the edges. No matter how sweet the perfumes, the air carries a trace of fear. In the Arabian Nights, kings may rule, but stories remind us that power belongs to no one forever. As the second night fades and dawn begins to glow across the horizon, Shahryar sits still on his throne. He is not yet changed, but something stirs inside him. The palaces Scheherazade described live in his mind. He sees himself in their rulers, strong yet fragile, mighty yet flawed. And though he does not admit it, he is curious to hear more. And so, the guard steps back. Scheherazade lives to see another day. She has lifted the veil just enough to show him what lies beneath. But her journey has only begun. For the next tale will leave the palace walls behind, carrying us into the heart of the marketplace, where merchants and caravans bring riches from every corner of the world. The night is silent in the desert, but then you hear it, a distant jingle of bells, the soft groan of camels, the murmur of voices carried by the wind, and soon a caravan appears like a river of shadows moving across the endless sand, hundreds of camels swaying under the weight of silks, spices, jewels and stories. Torches flicker, the scent of frankincense drifts through the air, and the world of the Arabian Nights awakens, alive with the promise of trade and adventure. This is not just travel, it is the heartbeat of civilization itself. The desert may look empty, but it was never empty. It was a highway of history, a place where caravans stitched the world together, east to west, north to south, from China to India, from Arabia to Africa, from the Mediterranean to the farthest reaches of Persia. Here in the silence of the dunes, entire worlds met, exchanged and transformed. What looks like an ocean of sand was really a golden bridge carrying dreams and fortunes. Imagine being a merchant walking with your caravan, the sand crunching under your sandals, the sun beating down so hot it burns through your robe, your mouth dry with thirst. Yet ahead lies a promise, the glitter of Damascus, the bazaars of Baghdad, the ports of Basra. You can almost taste the sweet wine of trade, the roasted almonds, the dried figs, the rare pepper carried from faraway India. You can smell the cinnamon, sharp and sweet, wrapped in bundles of reed. You can hear coins clink as they change hands, and you know you are part of something greater than yourself. You are a thread in the vast tapestry of the golden trade routes. Caravans were not just lines of camels moving through sand, they were moving cities, alive with people, guards, servants, cooks, storytellers and scholars. As they camped at night, fires lit the darkness, drums echoed against the dunes, and tales filled the air like smoke. Here, men from every corner of the world sat together, exchanging more than goods. They shared songs, myths and secrets, a Greek sailor telling of strange islands, a Persian trader describing the wonders of Persepolis, an Indian merchant speaking of elephants that carried kings upon jeweled saddles. Through these gatherings, stories spread like silk threads, weaving cultures together. Scheherazade knew this world, she had heard its echoes, she had seen how merchants shaped the imagination of kingdoms, how a single caravan could bring more than wealth, it could bring legends. The Arabian Nights themselves carry these voices, Sinbad sailing far beyond known horizons, Aladdin dreaming of riches, poor men rising to glory through wit and fortune. All of these tales reflect the merchant spirit, restless, daring, hungry for what lies beyond the horizon. Think of Baghdad in its golden age, the streets alive with merchants calling out their wares, carpets woven in brilliant colors rolled out like rivers on stone floors, brass lamps shining in the sunlight, glass jars filled with saffron glowing like fire, the air thick with the smell of roasting lamb, fresh bread, sweet honey, every sound a chorus, every sight a painting. Here the world gathered. Here caravans ended their long journeys and poured their treasures into the lifeblood of the city. But trade was more than wealth. It was knowledge. With the caravans came maps, medicines, philosophies and sciences. Paper traveled from China, algebra from Persia, astronomy from the Greeks and Arabs. These were treasures far greater than gold. They shaped minds, they built empires, they lit the lanterns of wisdom across the world. The golden trade routes were rivers of thought as much as rivers of silk and spice. The dangers were real too. The desert was not kind, sandstorms rose like mountains of fire, thieves prowled in shadows, waiting to strike. Hunger and thirst could break the strongest men. Yet still they went, still they carried their loads across the endless miles. Why? Because beyond the fear was hope, beyond the hardship was the dream of fortune, the dream of discovery, and so they endured, and in their endurance they built the world. Every caravan was also a moving stage, stories performed under the stars. Imagine sitting by the fire, your body aching from the day's march, yet your heart alive as a storyteller speaks, his words painting pictures of cities you have never seen, beasts you cannot imagine, treasures hidden under mountains, and as the wind howls over the dunes you believe it, for in the desert, stories feel as real as life itself. This is why the Arabian Nights are filled with merchants, for they carried more than goods, they carried imagination, they were the lifeblood of the stories, the link between distant lands and the hearts of listeners. Their journeys became the journeys of us all, reminding us that curiosity is stronger than fear, that the world is wider than any palace walls. Close your eyes now and hear it, the steady beat of hooves, the creak of leather, the low moan of camels, the voices rising in song as men march under the stars. Smell the smoke of the campfires, taste the dust on your lips, feel the rough fabric of the merchant's robe. This is the world of caravans, raw, vivid, alive. It was here that humanity learned that trade is not just the exchange of goods, but the exchange of souls. The golden trade routes were not just paths of commerce, they were veins of history. Through them flowed not only wealth but power. Whoever controlled them controlled kingdoms, wars were fought over them, treaties signed because of them, empires rose and fell with them. Power itself was measured by the reach of these roads, and through it all, the stories kept moving as unstoppable as the wind, carried from one camp to another until they became eternal. Scheherazada's tales of merchants and caravans remind us of this pulse, of this constant motion. Her stories mirror the truth that the world is always moving, always exchanging, always learning. The merchant's journey is never just about reaching the end, it is about transformation, about finding something unexpected along the way, sometimes treasure, sometimes wisdom, sometimes love. And so, as dawn breaks over the desert, the caravan continues, shadows stretching long across the sand, bells jingling, voices rising, their footsteps becoming part of history, for though they vanish into the horizon, the stories they carry never vanish, they live on, they become the fabric of the Arabian Nights. The desert is silent again, but the wind still carries echoes, whispers of merchants who dreamed, caravans that braved the dunes and routes that turned sand into gold. And now, as Scheherazada's voice fades into the morning, we prepare to hear of wonders stranger still, for the next tale opens a door into the world of magic itself, where lamps glow with secrets and ancient beings rise from smoke. The room is dark, the air is heavy, and a single lamp glows faintly in the corner. You lean closer, brushing away the dust. The metal is warm under your fingers, worn smooth by countless hands before yours, and then you rub it once, twice, and suddenly the silence breaks. Smoke pours out like a storm, twisting and curling until it fills the air, and from that smoke rises a being of fire and shadow, taller than any man, eyes blazing, voice thundering, and in that moment the world changes forever. This is not a story of kings or merchants, this is the story of power itself, hidden inside a lamp, carried through the centuries by whispers and fear. The tale of the magic lamp is one of the most famous in the Arabian Nights, yet it is also one of the most mysterious. It begins not with grandeur but with a boy, poor, unnoticed, forgotten by the world. He stumbles into fate when an old sorcerer leads him to a hidden cave, a place where the earth itself seems alive with secrets. Inside lies treasure beyond imagination, gold piled high, jewels shining like stars, carpets woven with the colors of heaven, but the sorcerer does not want any of it. He wants only one thing, a lamp, plain and unremarkable, sitting quietly in the dust. The boy, frightened yet curious, picks it up. The weight of it feels strange in his hands, heavy as though it holds more than metal. He climbs back, but betrayal awaits. The sorcerer slams the cave shut, leaving the boy trapped in darkness, his heart pounding, the air thick with the smell of stone and dust, and in desperation he rubs the lamp. What happens next is echoed for centuries, smoke rising, fire swirling, a voice that shakes the walls, and then the jinn appears, a being made not of flesh but of flame, vast, powerful, terrible. It bows before the boy and says the words that change everything. Master, what is your command? Here lies the secret of the lamp. It is not the gold, not the jewels, not even the cave of wonders. It is the spirit bound to the object, the jinn, older than kings, older than empires, made of smokeless fire, beings that exist between the world of man and the unseen, feared and worshipped, blamed for storms and shadows. They are wild, untamed, yet bound by the strange chains of magic. To the people who first told these tales, jinn were not fantasy, they were real. The desert winds carried their whispers, the cries of jackals at night were said to be their laughter, the strange lights over dunes were their fires. They could be cruel, leading travelers astray until they perished of thirst, or they could be kind, guiding the lost to water. The lamp itself was the ultimate symbol of this duality, a vessel to hold something no man should control, yet every man desired. The boy who would one day be known as Aladdin now held power beyond kings, Yet he was still just a boy, and that is the secret lesson woven into this story. True power does not always sit on thrones, sometimes it hides in the hands of the weak, the overlooked, the forgotten. The lamp gave him palaces, armies, wealth, but it also gave him responsibility, the kind that could shape or destroy entire lives. Imagine the world as Aladdin saw it. He had nothing, then suddenly he had everything. Imagine walking into a market where once you were ignored, and now heads bow as you pass, the smell of roasted lamb and sweet honey filling the air as merchants press gifts into your hands. Imagine seeing a palace rise before your eyes, towers stretching into the sky, their marble walls glowing in the sun, fountains spilling silver water into gardens filled with roses, and all because of a single lamp. But the lamp carried shadows too, for the sorcerer was not gone. Greed never sleeps. He returned, cloaked in lies, tricking Aladdin's wife into handing over the lamp, promising trinkets in exchange for what seemed worthless. And in that moment, the jinn was no longer Aladdin's. The palace itself lifted from the earth, carried across mountains and seas, leaving behind only silence and despair. Here we see the truth. Power without wisdom is fragile. It can be stolen in an instant. Yet Aladdin's story did not end there. Through courage, wit, and persistence he regained the lamp. He faced the sorcerer and defeated him, and once again commanded the jinn, but this time wiser, stronger, no longer the boy he once was. Here is the heart of the tale. Magic is nothing without the spirit to wield it rightly. The jinn themselves hold secrets deeper still. They remind us of humanity's eternal fear and fascination with the unseen, creatures of fire, free yet bound, stronger than men, yet forced to serve through strange contracts. In their stories we hear echoes of our own desires, to control what we cannot, to touch the forbidden, to command what should not be commanded, and always, those desires carry risk. Think of the desert again, the night silent except for the sigh of wind. You feel eyes upon you though no one is there, you smell smoke though no fire burns. This is the world of the jinn, a world just beyond the veil, too close to ignore, too far to truly grasp. The lamp is only a symbol. The real secret is that power lies in the unseen, in the whispers carried on the desert wind. Scheherazade told this story not only to entertain but to teach. The king who listened night after night was himself trapped by power, angry, wounded, blinded by suspicion. In the tale of the lamp, he heard his own reflection, the reminder that power alone cannot save, that greed leads only to ruin, and that wisdom can come even from those society overlooks. A poor boy with nothing became greater than kings, not through wealth, but through courage and heart. Close your eyes and picture the moment again, the smoke rising, the jinn's voice booming like thunder, the boy trembling yet standing firm. That image has lived for centuries, from desert firesides to palaces, from manuscripts to cinema, because it speaks to something we all feel, the dream of finding hidden power, the fear of being consumed by it, the hope of using it to rise above our chains. The lamp still glows in our imagination. It reminds us that stories are themselves a kind of magic, words that bind us, guide us, lift us. They can be treasures, they can be weapons, they can be secrets too heavy to hold. The jinn's secret is not just his power, but the mirror he holds up to us, asking, if you had this lamp, what would you do? Would you build or would you destroy? Would you rise or would you fall? As dawn creeps into the palace, Scheherazade ends her tale, leaving the king in silence, his mind haunted by images of smoke, treasure, and betrayal. He spares her once more, needing to hear what comes next, for the lamp has done its work, it has lit a spark inside him, and the stories continue. And so, we move forward, leaving behind the shadows of the lamp and stepping into the waves of the sea, where sails stretch against the horizon and storms carry men into realms beyond imagining. The sea is endless, dark, and alive. You hear the crash of waves against wood, the groan of ropes pulled tight, the call of sailors singing under a moonlit sky. Then the wind shifts, the ship lurches, and suddenly you are not just sailing, you are entering another world. This is not a sea of calm waters, it is a sea of monsters, storms, and secrets, and standing at its heart is Sinbad, a man who refuses to bow to fate, a man who dares to ride the endless waves in search of wonder, treasure, and survival. This is the hook of his story, a sailor who cannot resist the pull of the horizon. He is restless on land, his heart beating only when sails rise and ships cut through waves. Sinbad is not just a traveler, he is the spirit of humanity's eternal hunger for the unknown. His voyages are not simply journeys, they are battles against nature, chance, and fear itself, and through him we feel the vastness of the sea. Imagine leaving the port of Basra, the sun blazing above, the air thick with the smell of salt and spices, men shouting as they load chests of goods, silk and ivory, jars of oil and wine. You step aboard the ship, the deck warm beneath your feet, gulls crying above, the horizon stretching wide. Once the sails catch the wind, the land fades and all that remains is water, endless and deep. The first voyage begins with excitement, the sea calm, the men laughing, sharing food of dates and bread, but soon the waves rise, the sky darkens, and a strange island appears, green and lush, birds circling above, the sailors cheer, rushing to explore, fires lit, food cooked. Yet the earth shakes beneath them, the island moves, and the truth is revealed. It is no island, it is a giant creature, its back mistaken for land. Its roar like thunder, the men scramble for the ship, but many are swallowed by the sea. Sinbad survives, carried by fate, thrown onto another shore, his first lesson learned: the sea is never what it seems. Each voyage builds upon the last, filled with trials that push Sinbad to the edge. Storms rise with winds that tear sails apart, mountains of waves crashing against wooden decks, treasures found in the strangest of places, and dangers lurking in every shadow, from giant birds whose eggs are as large as houses, to rivers that flow with diamonds guarded by serpents, to cannibals who see strangers as prey. Sinbad's survival depends not only on luck, but on wit, courage, and the refusal to surrender. The roc, the legendary bird of the seas, is one of the most striking of his encounters. Its wings blot out the sun, its cry shakes the earth. When Sinbad ties himself to its leg to escape a deserted island, he is carried to mountains no man has ever seen, jagged peaks glittering with gems, valleys deep and filled with dangers. The roc is both savior and terror, a reminder that even nature itself holds power beyond imagination. Sinbad's voyages are not just filled with monsters, they are also filled with wonders. He sees cities of gold rising above the sea, he finds valleys where water runs sweet, he meets kings in distant lands who welcome him with banquets of exotic food, roasted peacocks, spiced wines, and fruits dripping with honey. Each land brings new lessons, some about kindness, others about greed, some about fortune, others about survival. The sea itself is a character, vast and untamable, one moment calm, the next a fury of wind and waves. Its smell is sharp with salt, its spray cool on the skin, its sound a constant roar in the ears. To sail it is to gamble with fate, and Sinbad gambles again and again, because the call of the horizon is louder than fear. Why do his stories matter? Why have they survived? Because Sinbad represents something in all of us: the refusal to stay still, the hunger for what lies beyond the edge. His courage is our courage, his mistakes are our warnings, his survival is our hope. In him, the Arabian Nights captured the eternal truth that humanity is never content with what it knows, it always seeks more. Scheherazade chose Sinbad's tales carefully. She told them to remind the king of the vastness of the world, to show him that beyond his palace walls there were seas he could never control, storms he could never command. She reminded him that life is not only power and vengeance, but also discovery, wonder, and resilience. Picture the campfires of old where these tales were told, merchants gathered after long journeys, the desert wind carrying the smell of smoke and roasted meat, a storyteller rising, his hands wide as he speaks of Sinbad's ship breaking apart, of treasures found in forgotten lands, of dangers faced with nothing but wit and courage. The listeners lean close, the firelight flickering in their eyes, and in those moments the sea lives again. Each of Sinbad's 7 voyages carries a deeper lesson, that fortune comes with risk, that greed brings ruin, that courage saves, and that survival is not just about strength, but about wisdom. His stories are warnings wrapped in adventure, treasures hidden in storms. Can you feel the deck rocking beneath you now, the creak of the wood, the ropes straining, the wind snapping the sails? Can you smell the salt in the air, sharp and endless? Can you taste the dryness of your mouth after days without fresh water? Can you hear the cry of something vast above, a sound that chills the blood? This is the world Sinbad lived, and through his stories we live it too. And yet, after every trial, every loss, every moment of despair, Sinbad returns, richer, wiser, changed. His voyages are circles, always ending in return but never returning the same. This is the truth of every journey: you may come back to the same place but you are no longer the same person. The Arabian Nights use Sinbad's voyages not just to thrill, but to teach that resilience and hope are stronger than storms, that even when the sea takes everything, the will to rise again is what makes us human, and that the endless horizon, terrifying as it is, holds treasures for those brave enough to sail toward it. As the last voyage fades into silence, we see Sinbad once more standing on the deck, the wind in his face, the sea stretching endless before him, his eyes no longer just hungry for treasure, but filled with understanding. He has faced the sea and survived, and in doing so he has found himself. The waves grow quiet, the sails rest, the ship drifts into calm waters. Scheherazade closes her tale, the king sits thoughtful, his heart touched by the courage of a sailor who dared to chase the horizon, and the listeners feel the call of the sea in their own hearts. But the Arabian Nights is far from finished, for while Sinbad braved the seas, others braved the secrets of land, thieves who sought hidden caves, treasures guarded not by storms but by silence and shadow, and so we turn the page ready to step into another world of danger and wonder. The night is still, the desert silent, and then a voice cuts through the darkness, a voice that whispers a single command: open sesame. The earth trembles, the rocks shift, and a hidden cave yawns wide. Inside glitters more treasure than a man could dream of, piles of gold spilling like rivers, jewels glowing in the torchlight, swords with hilts carved from emerald, crowns forgotten by kings. But beware, for treasure never lies unguarded, and shadows always hide thieves. This is the world of thieves and treasure caves, a world that has lived in the Arabian Nights for centuries, a place where greed and bravery walk side by side, where ordinary men stumble into wonders beyond imagination, and where secret kingdoms wait behind the veil of mountains and sand. This is the story of temptation, of betrayal, of hope buried deep in the earth. Imagine the desert stretching wide, the moon glowing cold above. A band of 40 thieves ride silently across the sand, their horses snorting, their blades gleaming. They stop before a wall of stone, and the leader raises his voice, the words ancient and strange. The rock splits, the cave opens, and inside, their hoard gleams, the smell of damp earth mixing with the sharp scent of coins and jewels. Here is the secret heart of their power, hidden not in a palace but in a cave of silence. But fate is never far, for one man, Ali Baba, a poor woodcutter, stumbles upon this secret, his life forever changed by a single accident. He hears the words, he sees the treasure, and suddenly he carries knowledge more dangerous than any sword. Open sesame. The cave listens to him too, and the poor man who once had nothing now stands before riches that could rival a king. Yet danger follows, for knowledge of secrets always demands a price. Scheherazade tells us this tale not only to thrill, but to warn. She weaves greed, trust, and betrayal into a pattern as sharp as a blade. The thieves are merciless, their rage burning when they discover their treasure touched. They hunt Ali Baba with fury, their leader cunning and ruthless. Yet Ali Baba survives not through strength, but through cleverness, through the bravery of his servant girl Morgiana, who dances before the thieves, her body swaying with grace only to strike at the perfect moment, spilling oil, flames rising, shadows falling, thieves undone by the very secrecy they trusted. Can you picture it, the flicker of torchlight in the cave, shadows stretching across mountains of gold, the cold metal under your fingers, the weight of a crown on your head, the smell of oil lamps burning, the thrill of finding treasure beyond your dreams, yet also the chill of fear, for every coin is marked with blood, every jewel watched by hungry eyes. Treasure caves are never safe, they are traps of temptation. But the Arabian Nights does not stop with thieves, for beyond the caves lie hidden kingdoms, places lost to the world, guarded by deserts, mountains and seas, cities of brass that shine under the sun like fire, kingdoms of crystal rising in the mist, valleys filled with statues of forgotten kings. The hidden world is always there, waiting for those who dare. Travelers spoke of the city of brass, its gates locked tight, its walls glimmering with strange symbols, its streets silent, its palaces filled with treasures untouched, yet also with warnings carved in stone, words of kings who thought themselves eternal, now dust. Here lies the lesson: hidden kingdoms may dazzle with wonder, but they also remind us that no power lasts, every treasure fades, every crown falls. Close your eyes and imagine walking into such a place, your footsteps echoing on stone streets, the air dry and heavy, the silence pressing against your chest. The golden doors creak open, inside halls stretch high, painted with stars, fountains dry, tables still set with jeweled cups, but no voices, no laughter, only the whisper of the wind. A kingdom once alive, now a ghost, its treasure not only in gold but in memory. Scheherazade tells these stories to the king to remind him that greed blinds, that kingdoms fall, that power is fragile. She speaks of thieves undone by their own secrecy, of caves that swallow the greedy, of kingdoms lost to pride. She teaches that to desire only gold is to lose sight of life, yet she also gives wonder, for who can resist the thrill of a hidden door, of words that split the earth, of treasures waiting in the dark. The Arabian Nights thrives on these contrasts, the poor rising against the rich, the clever defeating the cruel, the hidden world opening for those bold enough to speak the right words. It is both warning and dream, both terror and delight. Can you hear the cave now, the grinding of stone, the rush of air as the entrance opens? Can you feel the cool dampness inside, the walls rough beneath your hands, the gold cold and heavy? Can you smell the oil in the lamps, the musk of old fabrics? Can you see the light of your torch reflecting in 1,000 jewels? Dazzling, blinding, this is the heart of the story, immersion so deep you can almost step inside. And when the thieves fall, when Morgiana triumphs, when Ali Baba returns to his humble life, the lesson is clear: treasure is dangerous, but courage and loyalty are greater. Even hidden kingdoms remind us that no wealth is eternal, only stories endure. As the tale closes, dawn creeps across the palace once more, the king sits silent, his heart stirred by visions of caves that open with words, of thieves undone, of kingdoms lost. He spares Scheherazade again, for he must hear what lies beyond the caves, what lies beyond the thieves, for the Arabian Nights has more to give. And so, we leave the darkness of the treasure cave and step into a world of wisdom and light, where sultans and scholars shape the mind of a civilization. The palace gates open, the morning sun floods the courtyards, and voices rise in the call to prayer. The air carries the scent of incense, roses, and parchment. Men in silk robes hurry through marble halls, scribes with ink-stained hands bend over scrolls, and soldiers stand guard with shining spears. Here power and knowledge live side by side. Here sultans command armies while scholars command ideas, and from this meeting of crown and mind a golden age is born. This is not a tale of war, not a tale of hidden caves or jinn rising from smoke. This is the tale of wisdom itself, a story of how cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo became lanterns of learning, casting light far beyond their walls. This is where rulers understood that conquest can build an empire, but knowledge can make it eternal. Picture Baghdad at its height, the round city glittering under the sun, its walls stretching in perfect circles, its gates opening to the four corners of the world. Inside stands the House of Wisdom, a place unlike any other, shelves overflowing with manuscripts, the air filled with the sound of quills scratching on parchment, the smell of ink and papyrus thick in every room. Here scholars from every land gather, Persians, Indians, Greeks, Arabs, Jews, Christians, all working side by side, translating, preserving, and creating. Imagine walking through those halls, scrolls piled high, oil lamps burning, a scholar explaining the stars with charts drawn on wax tablets, another demonstrating medicine with jars of herbs and powders, another reading aloud from a Greek text as an Arab scribe translates every word into Arabic, the atmosphere alive with curiosity, a marketplace not of goods but of ideas. The sultans who built this world knew that power was fragile, swords could defend kingdoms, but only wisdom could make them endure. Caliph al-Mamun dreamed of gathering all human knowledge under one roof, sending envoys to distant lands to bring back manuscripts, texts from Aristotle, Galen, Euclid, knowledge that had slept in forgotten corners now awakened in Arabic words. This was more than preservation, it was transformation. The scholars did not only copy, they questioned, they debated, they experimented, they made new discoveries in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Algebra was born here, the stars were mapped here, diseases studied and treated with methods that carried across centuries. When Europe was sinking in its dark ages, the libraries of the East shone with fire. The Arabian Nights may be filled with magic and wonder, yet beneath its stories lies this truth, that the world of Scheherazade was also a world of intellect, of ideas flowing like caravans across the desert. Merchants carried spices, but scholars carried wisdom, and the sultans who valued them created legacies stronger than armies. Can you see it, the sultan seated on his throne, robes heavy with jewels, guards standing stiff at his side, yet before him kneels not a warrior but a scholar, holding a manuscript, reading words older than empires. The sultan listens, his mind widening, his heart stirred by thoughts he had never known. This is the veil of true power, the understanding that to rule is not only to command but to learn. The Arabian Nights echo this theme again and again, tales of wise kings who listened to advisors, tales of fools who ignored counsel and fell. Wisdom is the thread woven through the fabric of the stories. Wisdom saves, ignorance destroys, and Scheherazade speaks these lessons softly into the ears of a king broken by rage, hoping each night to plant seeds of reason. The smell of ink, the rustle of scrolls, the flicker of lamps, these are the weapons of scholars. No clash of steel, no roar of battle, yet the impact far greater. Here ideas moved silently, reshaping faith, science, art, and culture. And these ideas flowed outward, carried into Spain, into Sicily, into the heart of Europe, where they sparked renaissances centuries later. One scholar peers into the night sky, charting the movement of planets, his fingers cold in the chill air, yet his eyes burning with wonder. Another studies the human body, dissecting, recording, trying to understand how flesh and bone give life. Another measures the earth with ropes and stakes, discovering its circumference with astonishing precision. Each step, each thought, a victory greater than any conquest. This was the birth of wisdom, and the Arabian Nights mirrors it in its stories. Behind the magic lies logic, behind the wonder lies observation. Even the jinn and treasures serve as symbols of mystery waiting to be understood. The tales themselves are lessons, wrapping truth in silk and song. Scheherazade knew her audience, she knew the king's heart was locked in suspicion, so she used story not only to entertain but to educate, slowly showing him that power without wisdom is hollow, that kings who ignore knowledge lose more than battles. they lose their souls? Close your eyes and listen, the sound of pens scratching, the murmur of voices debating, the soft crackle of fire in the lamps, smell the ink sharp and bitter, the parchment dry and ancient, feel the weight of a manuscript in your hands, its pages rough yet precious. This is the heartbeat of the Golden Age. And yet, wisdom was not always secure, libraries burned, scrolls lost, scholars silenced. The rise of wisdom carried shadows of decline too. The very fragility of knowledge makes it precious, and this is why Scheherazada's stories endure. They carry wisdom disguised in wonder, preserved in memory when ink fades and palaces fall. The king listens in silence, the story of scholars and sultans not as thrilling as gin or treasure, yet it pierces deeper. It reminds him of what power can achieve, of what he himself might be if he chose reason over rage. The seed grows within him, night after night, watered by story, by parable, by memory. As dawn rises again, the tale closes, but the fire of wisdom remains. The listeners feel it too, that hunger for knowledge, that sense that the greatest treasures are not in caves or seas, but in minds, in words, in ideas that travel across time. And so, we move from palaces of thought to chambers of the heart, for while wisdom guides kings, it cannot shield them from desire, betrayal, and longing. The desert is silent, the dunes glowing gold under the rising sun, then the ground begins to tremble, first faint, then stronger, the sound grows louder, a rhythm steady and terrible, war drums, they roll across the sands like thunder, echoing through the emptiness, shaking the air, shaking the heart. This is no ordinary city they march toward, it is the city of brass, a place of legends, a place built by jinn and kings, its walls glittering like fire, its gates forged of metal that gleams under the sun like molten gold, and tonight those gates will hear the beat of war. From the first moment the city of brass entered the Arabian Nights, it carried mystery. Some said it was built by giants, others whispered it was raised by the hands of jinn, its towers shining so bright that travelers mistook them for the sun, its gates covered in strange inscriptions, words of power and warning. The city stood in the heart of the desert, unreachable, unbroken, yet always waiting. Now imagine standing before it, the heat of the sand burning your feet, the smell of iron and dust heavy in the air, the drums pounding so deep you feel them in your chest, warriors gather in rows, shields flashing, spears sharp, their eyes fixed on the shimmering gates, for this is no simple battle, this is a march into legend. Scheherazade tells this story not with gentle whispers but with the roar of armies. She knows the king who listens to her each night must hear not only of love and betrayal, but of war and its cost. She paints scenes of soldiers marching, banners snapping in the desert wind, the cries of captains rising, the clash of steel ringing in the distance. The city of brass is not only a fortress, it is a warning. The stories say those who tried to enter found halls filled with riches beyond imagination, thrones of crystal, jewels glowing in the torchlight, but also skeletons sitting upright in golden chairs, kings long dead yet still watching, inscriptions carved into stone walls reminding all who entered, power does not last, greed consumes, pride destroys. But men do not listen, they hunger for what shines, and so they march, the war drums pounding like the heartbeat of fate, the gates of brass towering above them, carved with strange creatures, their mouths open in silent screams. The heat of the sun turns the walls into mirrors, blinding, dazzling, yet irresistible. Can you see it, the first strike of a ram against the gates, the boom of wood against metal, sparks flying, the soldiers shouting, the smell of sweat and smoke filling the air, the drums never stopping, always beating as if the earth itself demands war. Scheherazade weaves the tale of these armies not to glorify conquest but to reveal its emptiness. What good are riches if they lead only to ruin? What good is a throne if it crumbles into dust? The city of brass stands as both temptation and curse, a shining reminder that even the greatest powers fall silent. Inside its walls, travelers speak of wonders, gardens that never wither, fountains that flow with silver, halls where every step echoes like thunder, but no laughter, no voices, only silence. The treasure is real, but so is the warning, for carved into the city's stones are words of kings who thought they would never die, yet death took them all, leaving their splendor behind as a trap for the greedy. The drums grow louder in the tale, soldiers break through the gates, rushing inside, their eyes wide with hunger, they grab jewels, they fill their hands with coins, but then the ground shakes, the air grows heavy, whispers fill the halls, the jinn are not gone, they are waiting, shadows move in the torchlight, and the soldiers realize too late that the city is alive, a place of punishment, a reminder carved into stone and flame. Scheherazade's voice rises as she tells it, reminding the king that war always carries this cost. Men believe they march for glory, but they march for ruin, their drums may thunder, their banners may fly, yet in the end they too become bones seated on forgotten thrones. Close your eyes and hear the chaos, the clash of swords, the screams of men, the smell of blood and burning oil, the heat of the desert mixing with the cold fear inside the city walls. Can you see the brass towers gleaming above, their light blinding, their silence suffocating? This is not victory, this is doom dressed in gold. The city of brass is more than a place, it is a symbol, a lesson Scheherazade gives to her king, reminding him that anger and pride destroy more surely than any enemy, that war drums may silence reason, but they cannot silence truth. Kingdoms built on rage crumble, only wisdom and compassion endure. The king listens, his heart still scarred by betrayal, his mind still chained by suspicion, yet as he hears the story of soldiers lost to greed and fury, he feels a shadow of himself in it, his own war against love, his own city of brass built from pride, and slowly, night by night, Scheherazade draws him away from destruction toward reflection. The Arabian Nights is filled with such echoes, tales of war and treasure always hiding lessons, always reflecting back on those who hear them. They remind us that the brightest cities can become tombs, that the loudest drums can lead to silence, that even brass will tarnish. As the tale ends, the war drums fade, replaced by the call of dawn. The king spares Scheherazade again, for he must hear what comes next, his curiosity stronger than his rage, her stories weaving deeper into his heart. And so, we leave the city of brass behind, its gates closed once more, its silence echoing across the desert. But the Arabian Nights is not done, for even as kingdoms fall, their voices linger, legends carried by wind and time. The torches burn low, the air is heavy with silence, and the stars outside fade into the first gray light of dawn. In the king's chamber Scheherazade's voice grows softer, not weaker, but steadier, like the closing notes of a song. She has spoken for night after night, 1,000 nights and more, each story carrying laughter, fear, wonder and sorrow. But now her words change, the end draws near, and the question lingers in the air. When the stories stop, what will remain? This is the power of the Arabian Nights, not only the thrill of its beginnings, but the weight of its ending, for stories are like rivers, they flow and twist. But all rivers meet the sea. Scheherazade has survived through wisdom and courage, weaving tales that saved her life again and again. Yet as the nights wane, a greater truth rises. Stories are not only about survival, they are about transformation. Imagine the king in these final nights, no longer the man of rage and suspicion who first lifted his sword. He sits with eyes softer, his heart less burdened, his mind opened by 1,000 voices carried through the mouth of one woman. He has listened to merchants and sailors, to thieves and kings, to lovers and warriors, to fools and to the wise, each tale a mirror, each tale a lesson. The chamber is the same, the marble floors cold, the oil lamps smoking faintly, the scent of rosewater drifting through carved screens. Yet something has changed. The silence between the king and Scheherazade is no longer filled with fear, it is filled with memory, and in that memory lies healing. Scheherazade does not rush her ending, she understands that stories are strongest when they close with care. She tells of lands far and near, of wonders that fade like mirages, of people who lived and died, their names carried by wind and time. Her voice is slower now, each word deliberate, each pause meaningful. She knows the dawn is near, not just for the night, but for her. The waning of the 1,000 nights is not only the end of a cycle, it is the birth of trust. The king who once swore to kill has chosen to listen instead. He has been held captive by words, not chains. He has been conquered not by armies, but by compassion. This is the triumph of storytelling. It changes the heart, it shapes the soul. Picture the 1,000 nights as a long tapestry, woven with silk threads of every color, red for love, black for betrayal, gold for wisdom, silver for wonder, green for life, blue for the sea. Across this tapestry stretch the figures of Sinbad, Aladdin, Ali Baba, princes and beggars, queens and jinn, all walking together, all connected. As the final nights fade, the tapestry nears completion, its pattern revealed at last. The listeners of these tales, centuries later, still feel the weight of the waning nights, for endings carry a power of their own. Think of the hush in a theater as the last note fades, think of the silence after a final word, think of the stillness when a story that has carried you for hours suddenly rests. It is not emptiness, it is fulfillment, the sense that something has closed, yet left you changed. Scheherazade's genius lies not only in survival, but in timing. She ends not in fear, but in strength. She ends not as a prisoner, but as a teacher. Her voice does not break, her eyes do not lower, she speaks with dignity, reminding the king that her stories were not tricks, they were gifts, gifts of imagination, gifts of warning, gifts of hope. The waning nights are also the waning of loneliness. For through these stories the king has been reminded of his own humanity, reminded that anger is not eternal, that grief can fade, that hearts can open again. In these final hours, the palace feels lighter, the guards less tense, the silence less sharp, even the air seems to breathe easier. Close your eyes and picture it, the faint glow of dawn painting the horizon, the sound of birds stirring outside, the smell of morning air drifting through lattice windows. Inside the chamber a woman finishes her tale, her voice steady, her hands folded in her lap. Before her sits a king who has listened longer than he ever thought he could, and in the quiet between them lies a truth more powerful than crowns or swords. The Arabian Nights reminds us that all stories end, yet no story truly dies, for each listener carries it forward. Scheherazade may finish her 1000th night, but her words live in the memory of the king, in the hearts of his people, and across centuries into ours. This is the real treasure, not gold or jewels, but memory carried from voice to voice. Scheherazade's survival is no longer the question. She has already won. Her victory is not in living another night, but in transforming the man who once condemned her. She has taken vengeance and turned it into mercy, despair and turned it into hope. The waning of the 1000 nights is the birth of a new dawn. And so, as the last tale ends, she falls silent. The king looks at her, his eyes filled with something he has not felt in years: trust, love, respect. He sees not a prisoner, but a partner, not a threat, but a savior, and he spares her not because he must, but because he cannot imagine life without her stories. This ending echoes beyond the palace walls, beyond the city, beyond the centuries, reminding us that stories are eternal. They wane, they fade, but they return, told again and again, each ending a beginning, each silence a seed. As Scheherazade closes her final night, the world shifts, her voice rests, but the echoes remain, and as listeners we too feel the stillness, the hush of something beautiful completed, yet the promise of more always waiting. And now, as one tale closes, another must begin, for though the 1000 nights wane, their echoes rise into legend, carrying us forward into the legacy that outlived them. The night ends, the 1000th story fades and silence falls, yet the silence does not last. It never does, for stories do not die. They echo, they ripple outward, touching those who hear them, then those who retell them, until centuries later the voices still live. Imagine standing in a desert camp long after the fire has burned low, the sand cold beneath your feet, the stars bright above, and though no one speaks, you still hear it, faint but clear, the echo of words once told, carrying across time like the desert wind. This is the legacy of the Arabian Nights, a world that refuses to fade, a world that lingers in memory and imagination. Though the storytellers are gone, their voices remain, the echoes are in every tale of wonder, every whisper of magic, every dream that carries us beyond our walls. Scheherazade may have closed her mouth on that final dawn, but the echoes of her voice continue, they never stop. Think of it, the tales traveled farther than any caravan, from Baghdad to Cairo, from Damascus to Istanbul, across seas to Spain, Italy, France, England, carried not by camels or ships alone, but by memory and ink, copied by scribes, retold by travelers, reshaped by poets, until the stories lived in every language, changing but never breaking, always alive. You can almost see the scribes at their desks, candles flickering, the smell of wax and ink filling the air, their hands moving quickly, copying line after line, their eyes heavy but determined, knowing that what they write is not just for their time, but for the future. They could not have imagined how far the stories would travel, how deep they would root, yet their work became the bridge across centuries. The echoes of the Arabian Nights are not only in books, they are in the imaginations they shaped. Aladdin's lamp lighting the dreams of children, Sinbad's voyages filling hearts with the call of the sea, Ali Baba's cave stirring the thrill of discovery. Even today, these names are spoken with wonder, they are woven into plays, films, paintings, songs, each retelling an echo of the first. Why do these echoes survive? Why do they never fade? Because the Arabian Nights does not belong to one time, it belongs to all times. Its stories speak of greed and courage, of betrayal and love, of fear and hope. And these are the truths of every age. The faces change, the empires rise and fall, but the heart of humanity beats the same, and the stories that touched that heart once will touch it always. Close your eyes and feel it, the sound of a merchant's voice telling a story at a market stall, the laughter of children at a tale of foolish kings, the hush of soldiers gathered by a fire, listening to a story of courage before battle. The echo moves from one to another, across cities, across deserts, across oceans, until even now you hear it in your own heart. Scheherazade's true victory lies not in surviving the king's wrath, but in leaving echoes that outlive her, echoes that remind us of the power of words. Her voice began in fear, but it ended in triumph, and every retelling since is a celebration of that triumph. Every time a child hears Aladdin, every time a reader loses themselves in Sinbad, Scheherazade lives again. The echoes also remind us of fragility, the manuscripts nearly lost in wars and fires, the libraries that once burned with thousands of texts, the countless voices that vanished in silence, Yet somehow these stories endured, carried like embers in the dark, protected by memory, passed like treasures, proof that words are stronger than flame. Imagine walking through a library centuries later, the shelves filled with translations of the Arabian Nights, French editions with golden covers, English versions bound in leather, Arabic manuscripts still glowing with careful ink, the smell of old paper rich and earthy, the weight of centuries in your hands. As you read, you realize you are hearing the same words whispered to a king in the silence of his palace. The echo is alive. And these echoes do more than entertain, they shape cultures, they inspire explorers, artists, dreamers. How many have sailed seas because Sinbad called to them? How many have sought wonders because Aladdin showed them treasures? How many have believed in the strength of cleverness over cruelty because Ali Baba taught them? Stories change lives, and these stories never stop doing so. Scheherazada's world is gone, the palace is fallen, the king's buried, yet her stories still stand, alive in every retelling. This is the world that never dies, the echoes reminding us that even when kingdoms turn to dust, imagination endures, even when voices fall silent, memory carries them on. The Arabian Nights is proof that stories are immortal. They outlive their tellers, they outlast their time, they move like shadows across centuries, reshaped yet still the same. The echo is always there, waiting for those who listen. Close your eyes again and hear it, the faint rustle of parchment, the whisper of a voice in the dark, the crackle of fire in a desert camp, the roar of a crowd in a marketplace, the silence of a child leaning close to listen, the echo of a story that has traveled farther than armies, survived longer than empires, and still lives tonight. Scheherazada's final gift is this, that the echoes of her stories remind us we too are part of them. Every listener is a link in the chain, every retelling another echo, and so long as we speak, so long as we listen, the world of the Arabian Nights never dies. As dawn rises on her last tale, the palace is quiet, but the echo carries outward into the city, into the desert, into the centuries beyond, and now it carries to us here tonight. But the story is not yet finished, for after echoes come legacies, what remains when the sound fades, what lessons live on when the voice is gone. The desert is quiet, endless, shimmering beneath the burning sun, and yet beneath this silence lies something extraordinary, whole kingdoms swallowed by sand, palaces buried, streets erased, voices forgotten, but not lost, for the sands keep secrets, they whisper them to the wind, to the stars, and to us if we dare to listen. Imagine standing in the middle of that vast emptiness, the dunes stretching in every direction, golden waves rising and falling like an ocean, and then the wind shifts, brushing away grains of sand, revealing a broken stone, carved with words from a world that should not exist. In that moment you realize the desert is not empty, it is full of forgotten kingdoms waiting to be remembered. This is the hook of our journey. The desert may seem lifeless, but beneath its surface lies a library of ruins, stories buried not in books but in stones, every grain of sand a page, every dune a chapter, whole civilizations written and erased by time. And tonight we walk among them, feeling the echoes of worlds long gone. Picture it, an ancient city glowing under the desert sun, its walls carved with intricate patterns, its towers rising high above the streets, markets bustling with merchants calling out, the smell of roasted lamb and saffron in the air, camels swaying through gates of bronze, children running with laughter, soldiers marching in glittering armor, and then, centuries later, silence, the winds blowing stronger, the sands rising, the city fading, buried until nothing remains but dunes. The Arabian deserts are littered with such ghosts, places like Ubar, called the Atlantis of the sands, spoken of in old texts as a city of pillars, wealthy and proud, where caravans laden with frankincense began their journeys. Travelers said its towers glittered under the sun, its wells deep and sweet, but pride led to its downfall, and one day the sands rose, swallowing it whole. Today only fragments remain, whispers in the wind. Scheherazade would tell stories of such places not only to enchant but to warn, to remind that no kingdom is eternal, no crown everlasting. The sands beneath our feet wait for us all, yet the memory endures, because stories keep them alive even when stone crumbles. Imagine walking with explorers who stumble across ruins, their footsteps crunching on ancient bricks half buried, the air dry, the heat pressing down, the silence broken only by the cry of a hawk overhead. They dig with bare hands, their nails filled with dust, and suddenly they uncover a carved doorway, its pattern still visible, its arch leading into shadows, the smell of dry earth and forgotten air rushing out. It is as if time itself exhales. Inside you find chambers lined with faded paintings, colors still clinging to stone, showing processions of kings, rituals of priests, markets filled with life, each image a frozen moment, each crack a reminder of how fragile eternity is. Treasures may be stolen, walls may fall, but even fragments hold power. they tell us that people lived, loved, dreamed just like us. The desert is not cruel, it is patient, it hides but it also preserves, the sands bury but also protect, scrolls survive in sealed jars, coins gleam when brushed free, skeletons lie with jewelry still at their side. These are not just remains, they are echoes, and when uncovered they speak again. Think of the kingdom of Palmyra, once a jewel of trade, its columns and arches glowing white against the desert sky, caravans pouring in from Persia, India, Rome, Africa, its queen Zenobia challenging empires, her ambition fierce. Yet in time the sands encroached, the stones cracked and silence returned, but today the ruins still stand, a reminder that kingdoms fall but never fully die, their bones remain. Scheherazade's listeners would have felt the power of these stories, for every king fears being forgotten, every ruler fears the sand, the buried cities are lessons carved into the earth itself, warnings to the proud, but also wonders to the curious. Close your eyes and hear it, the whisper of wind moving across dunes, the hiss of sand pouring into cracks, the sudden hollow thud as your foot strikes buried stone, the gasp as a doorway appears, the torchlight flickering on walls that have not seen light for centuries. Smell the dust, dry and sharp, feel the rough carvings under your hand. This is the heartbeat of forgotten kingdoms, pulsing still beneath the sands. Not all ruins are curses, some are treasures, hidden gardens where canals once flowed, where seeds still lie buried, waiting for water to awaken them. In these moments you realize that life never fully leaves, it waits, patient as the sand shifts above. The Arabian Nights carry this truth in every tale, that nothing is truly gone while memory remains. Stories act as shovels, digging, revealing, resurrecting. The sands beneath forgotten kingdoms are not graves, they are archives, each ruin another story told through silence. Even kings listening to Scheherazade would have felt this sting, for what is a palace if not a future ruin? What is a crown if not a relic waiting to be found? Her words reminded him that the sword cannot defeat time, only wisdom can. And yet there is beauty in the ruins, the light of the sun slipping through broken arches, the shadows of palm trees swaying against fallen columns, the stillness of empty streets once filled with life, beauty and sadness, both together, reminding us that time does not only take, it transforms, it turns cities into stories, kingdoms into echoes, silence into lessons. As the chapter draws near its end, picture the desert at night, the moon rising over dunes, silver light casting shadows on half-buried stones, the ruins sleeping, the wind carrying whispers of voices long gone, voices of merchants, soldiers, kings, children, their laughter faint but alive. The sands breathe, the kingdoms remember, and we, by listening, keep them alive. And so, Scheherazade's tale of forgotten kingdoms closes with both wonder and warning. Kingdoms rise, kingdoms fall, but the sands carry every memory, they remind us of what was, they whisper of what will come. Now we leave the silence of ruins and turn to another mystery, for beyond the sands lie forces not of stone but of fire, beings older than any kingdom, guardians of horizons, spirits feared and revered. The horizon is endless, a line of fire where the desert meets the sky. Travelers march toward it but never reach it, for the horizon is always just ahead, always untouchable, and yet the old stories say it is guarded, not by men or armies, but by beings of fire and smoke. The jinn, imagine standing on that line at dusk, the wind whipping the sand into your face, the air heavy with heat, the sun sinking in red flames, and then you see them, shapes rising from the shimmer, taller than towers, eyes glowing like coals, voices carried by the storm, the jinn who guard the horizon. This is the hook of the tale, the horizon is not empty, it is alive, a boundary not only of distance but of mystery. To cross it is to cross into another world, a world the jinn protect with fury, for they are as old as the desert itself, made of smokeless fire, born before men carved their first cities, feared even by kings, respected by prophets, the guardians of secrets no mortal was meant to hold. Picture a caravan marching across the sands, the camels swaying, their bells jingling softly, the men weary, their robes heavy with dust. They follow the horizon, always hoping that just beyond it lies an oasis, a city, a kingdom of treasure. But then the sky changes, the air grows thick, the sun dims though no cloud passes, and the wind begins to sing, not the gentle whistle of desert breezes, but a deep hum, a warning, and the men know they are near the domain of the jinn. The Arabian Nights spoke often of the jinn, not merely as monsters but as beings of will and power. They lived in the shadows of mountains, in the depths of abandoned wells, in ruins forgotten by time, and at the edges of the horizon, where men dared not step. They were guardians, tricksters, lovers and destroyers, some kind, some cruel, some bound to serve, others free and wild, but all feared, for their strength was beyond imagining. Scheherazade told of them in whispers, her voice low, her eyes steady. She described their forms, sometimes vast and terrible, with wings that darkened the sky, sometimes small and sly, their laughter sharp as broken glass. She reminded the king that even rulers of men were nothing compared to rulers of fire, and in her words lay a warning: power without wisdom is ruin, whether in men or in jinn. Close your eyes and feel it, the air suddenly colder though the sun still burns, the smell of smoke though no fire burns near, the taste of dust dry and bitter on your tongue, your heart racing though no enemy is seen. This is the presence of the jinn, unseen yet undeniable, watching, waiting, guarding. Legend said they protected the horizon because it was the edge of the known world. Beyond it lay secrets men were not ready for, valleys of fire, rivers of darkness, cities built of crystal and flame. The jinn stood between mortals and these forbidden realms, sometimes guiding, often deceiving, but always guarding. To see them was both blessing and curse, for some travelers returned with treasure or wisdom, others vanished into sandstorms that swallowed them whole. One tale speaks of a merchant who pushed his caravan too far, greed filling his heart. He sought gems said to lie beyond the horizon, but when he crossed, the jinn rose before him, vast as mountains, their voices roaring like thunder. They offered him a choice: return and live or go on and be lost. But the merchant refused, and when the dawn came his caravan was gone, nothing but scattered bones and broken chests buried in the dunes. The horizon had taken him. Another tale tells of a shepherd, poor and humble, who wandered too far chasing a lost lamb. The jinn appeared, not in fire but in human form, a man with eyes like embers. He spoke kindly, guiding the shepherd to water, saving his flock, and when the man looked back the figure was gone, leaving only footprints that glowed faintly in the sand. Here lies the other truth of the jinn: they are not always cruel, sometimes they are teachers, sometimes protectors. Their fire can warm as well as burn. Scheherazade's genius was in weaving both faces of the jinn, for she knew the king needed to see that power is never simple. It can destroy but also save. It depends on the heart that wields it. Her voice painted pictures of fire and smoke, of winds that sang with unseen voices, of horizons that shimmered like mirrors, reflecting not only the desert but the soul of those who walked it. Imagine now the horizon at night, the stars blazing overhead, the sand glowing faintly silver, silence all around, and then a shadow moves, long and thin, stretching across the dunes though no one is there. You feel eyes upon you, the hair on your arms rising, the cool breeze suddenly hot as flame. The jinn are near, their presence heavy in your chest, the boundary between worlds thin as silk. The Arabian Nights used the jinn to explain what could not be explained: the strange winds, the sudden storms, the voices heard in the desert at night. To the people of that world the jinn were real. They were woven into life, prayed to, feared, bargained with. Their stories taught respect for forces beyond human reach, and reminded every listener that arrogance is punished, humility rewarded. And so the jinn remain, guardians of the horizon, where the known meets the unknown, where men's ambition meets the mysteries of creation. Their fire eternal, their voices hidden in the wind. When you walk the desert, you still feel them, the echo of their power in the sand beneath your feet, in the stars above your head. As Scheherazade's tale of the jinn ends, dawn rises once again over the palace. The king silent, his heart stirred by the thought of forces greater than himself, his pride softened by the reminder that all rulers are small before the fire of creation. He spares her again, his curiosity stronger than his fear. The jinn have worked their magic. And now, with the horizon behind us, we follow the path of the stars themselves, for not all journeys end on land. Some follow rivers of light across the night sky. The night sky stretches wide, deeper than the ocean, darker than the desert. Then suddenly it begins to shimmer, a glowing band of light spilling across the heavens like a river made of fireflies, a river made of diamonds. The ancients called it the river of stars, others called it the pathway of dreams. Imagine standing in the stillness of the desert, the sand cool beneath your feet, the air sharp with the scent of night, and above you flows that endless silver current, guiding wanderers, mystics and dreamers since the dawn of time. This is not just a sky, it is a map, a story written in light, every star a word, every constellation a sentence, and together they form a book no man can hold, but all can read. For centuries travelers have followed this river, trusting its glow to guide them across wastelands, seas and mountains. And yet it is more than guidance, it is mystery, it is magic, the promise that beyond the horizon lies something greater. Picture an ancient caravan, torches dimmed, the camels moving slowly under the glow of stars, the merchants whispering softly, pointing upward, tracing shapes with their fingers, the archer, the lion, the scales, constellations alive with story, each star not only a point of light but a tale passed down, tales of kings turned to flame, of lovers trapped in the sky, of warriors frozen in eternal battle. These are the dreams written into the heavens. The Arabian Nights wove these images into its stories, rivers of silver light guiding lovers to each other, sailors finding their way home by constellations, mystics claiming visions as they stared into the glow. Scheherazade would describe the stars not as distant fire, but as companions, friends who watched and whispered, guardians of the night. Close your eyes and imagine the silence of the desert broken only by the sigh of wind, the stars so bright they cast faint shadows on the sand, the silver band above like a road made for spirits. You can almost hear it, a hum, a song, as if the stars themselves breathe, their light falling like soft rain onto your skin, cold and warm all at once. Legend said this river in the sky was a bridge between worlds. Some called it the Road of Souls, carrying the departed into eternity. Others said it was a river of silver dreams, where those who slept drifted at night, their spirits sailing across the heavens before returning to their bodies at dawn. The glow of morning simply the return of these travelers. One tale tells of a sailor lost at sea, his boat drifting without wind or compass. He lay on his back staring at the stars, and in their river he saw a path. He followed it, steering by the glow, and after 7 nights he reached land, alive. He swore he had heard voices above, whispering songs that guided his hands on the rope, saving him. Another tale speaks of a queen who longed for her husband, lost in war. Each night she prayed to the stars, and one night in her dream she saw the river of light carrying his spirit back to her. When dawn came he returned, alive and weary, claiming he too had dreamed of the same river guiding him home. Thus the people believed the stars could carry love across distance, their light binding hearts that distance could not sever. Scheherazade used these stories to remind her king that the world is wider than his palace, that love, loss, and hope are carried not only in men's hearts but written in the heavens. She spoke of how wisdom is found by looking upward, how patience and faith are rewarded by following the silver road. Think of the scholars of Baghdad who studied the stars, mapping them with careful drawings, building instruments of brass and bronze, their eyes burning with curiosity, their parchments filled with circles and lines. They measured the movement of planets, predicted eclipses, discovered truths that shaped the world. To them the river of stars was not only myth, it was science. Yet even they admitted its beauty held something beyond reason, something divine. Can you feel it now, standing under that sky, the weight of eternity pressing down, yet also lifting you, making you feel small and infinite all at once? Smell the cool air, taste the dryness on your lips, hear the hush of the desert, see the silver band stretching from horizon to horizon, and realize that countless generations before you stood in the same place, staring at the same light, whispering the same questions. The River of Stars teaches us that time does not erase wonder, it connects us. Those who gazed centuries ago are connected to us through this light. The same dreams they dreamed still drift in our minds. This is why the Arabian Nights endures, because its stories, like the stars, are eternal echoes, always shining, always waiting to be seen again. One more legend tells of a mystic who followed the silver river in his visions, walking across the desert without fear, his eyes fixed on the glow above. After 40 nights he came to an oasis no map recorded, its waters clear, its palms heavy with fruit. He declared it a gift from the stars, a reminder that faith in what is above brings blessings below. Scheherazade's voice would rise as she told such stories, her hands painting pictures of silver rivers, her eyes glowing in lamplight, her words carrying the king away from his rage into the cool stillness of night skies. In these moments his heart softened, his anger dimmed, for even kings could not deny the wonder of the stars. And so the River of Stars is both dream and map, both guide and mystery. It is the silver thread that ties together wanderers, sailors, queens, mystics, and all who ever looked upward in hope. It is the road of the soul, the pathway of love, the whisper of eternity. As dawn rises, the stars fade, the river melts into blue sky, yet its memory lingers. Scheherazade pauses, her voice quiet, her tail left hanging like the last star before sunrise. The king breathes deeply, knowing he will hear more, for the magic of the story has worked again. Now we leave the stars above and return to the earth below, where crowns gleam and falcons fly, where loyalty is tested and betrayal hides in shadow. The palace is filled with silence, the throne stands empty, and on its golden armrest rests a falcon, its sharp eyes fixed on the horizon. Outside the city lies in chaos, the crown once bright has fallen to the dust, and the only witness is the bird of prey perched high above. This is no ordinary falcon, it is both symbol and sentinel, a creature that sees what men cannot, and in its flight lies the story of loyalty, betrayal, and the fragile weight of power. This is the hook of the tale. Kingdoms do not always fall with a roar, sometimes they crumble in whispers, in choices, in betrayals hidden behind closed doors, and when they do, only symbols remain, the falcon soaring, the crown broken, the lessons eternal. Picture it, a king sitting in his court, the falcon perched beside him, the bird trained since birth, fierce yet loyal, its feathers gleaming in the torchlight, its call sharp as steel. The people marvel at the bird, seeing it as a sign of strength, for the falcon is the hunter of the skies, master of precision, ruler of the wind, and as long as it sits with the king, his power feels untouchable. But beneath the crown lies weakness. The king is betrayed not by enemies beyond the walls, but by those closest to him. Whispers grow in the corridors, servants passing notes, ministers plotting in silence, even family casting jealous glances. The falcon senses the unrest, its feathers ruffled, its cries sharper, but men ignore what animals see. Scheherazade told this tale to remind the king listening to her that betrayal is often born not in battlefields but in hearts. She spoke of a ruler who trusted too much in symbols and too little in truth, who believed the falcon's presence meant his throne was safe, yet while the bird remained loyal, the men around him did not. Close your eyes and feel it, the heavy scent of incense in the palace, the rustle of silk robes as courtiers bow with false smiles, the cool marble under the king's sandals as he walks, unaware of daggers hiding in shadows, the falcon shifting uneasily on his shoulder, its claws gripping harder, the warning unspoken. One night, the king's crown is stolen not by foreign hands but by his own brother, the act swift, the betrayal deep, soldiers bribe guards, doors swing open, and the throne is taken. The crown falls to the ground, dented, its jewels scattering like stars across stone. The falcon screams, its wings spreading wide, it strikes at the traitor, drawing blood, yet even its loyalty cannot stop the tide of betrayal. The king flees, stripped of his power, wandering in the desert, the falcon still by his side, a companion in exile, its eyes sharp, its wings strong, it hunts for him, feeds him, keeps him alive, and in the silence of the sands he begins to understand, crowns can fall, thrones can be stolen, but loyalty and truth endure. Scheherazade's voice would rise in this moment, reminding her king that true power lies not in jewels or gold, but in trust, in loyalty, in the bonds that cannot be bought or betrayed. She compared the falcon to wisdom itself, sharp-eyed, faithful, always warning, always guiding, yet often ignored until it is too late. Imagine the fallen king in exile, sitting by a small fire, the desert wind cold, the falcon perched above him on a rock, the bird calls into the night, the sound echoing across dunes. The king looks at the crown in his lap, dented and dull, and realizes it means nothing without loyalty. The fire flickers, the sand shifts, the falcon watches, a silent teacher. Legends say that in time the king returned, not with armies but with wisdom. He faced his brother, not in rage but in calm strength, and when the people saw the falcon still with him, they remembered his loyalty, they remembered the bond of bird and man. The crown was restored, but this time the king understood, the crown was not power, it was responsibility. Scheherazade's genius was in weaving animals into her stories, for animals speak truths men ignore. The falcon sees betrayal before it happens, it knows loyalty beyond words, it hunts with precision, it survives where men falter. To her listening king she was saying, be like the falcon, sharp, loyal, steady, and beware those who smile with daggers in their hearts. Can you see it, the falcon soaring high above the desert, its wings spread wide, the sun glinting on its feathers, its shadow racing across the sand, its cry sharp, piercing, carrying across miles, the people below pointing upward, their hearts stirred, for they see not just a bird but a symbol of resilience, of vision, of loyalty, the very qualities kings must hold if they wish to endure. The fallen crown becomes the lesson, for no gold, no jewel, no throne can secure power without loyalty. The falcon becomes the guide, reminding us that wisdom and loyalty cannot be stolen, they endure even when crowns fall. And through this parable Scheherazade planted another seed in her king's heart, teaching him to look beyond symbols, to seek truth and loyalty. Close your eyes and feel the final scene, the king standing once more in his palace, the crown upon his head, the falcon perched beside him, its eyes fierce, its wings folded, the courtiers bowing low, their whispers silenced, the scent of incense heavy, the light of dawn spilling through high windows. Yet the king's gaze is not on his crown but on the falcon, his true companion, his reminder of the betrayal he survived and the wisdom he gained. And so the story closes with the falcon's cry echoing through the halls, sharp and eternal, a warning that crowns may fall, but truth and loyalty rise again. Now we leave the palace and follow whispers of paradise, for beyond betrayal and crowns lies another story, of a garden hidden in the desert, where waters never dry and fruits never wither. The desert is dry, merciless, a sea of golden dunes stretching to infinity. The sun burns like fire overhead, the wind cuts like blades and every breath feels heavy with dust. Then in the midst of this endless emptiness, a rumor rises, a whisper carried from caravan to caravan, a story of a place hidden deep in the sands, a garden where the air is cool, the water sweet, and the trees heavy with fruit that never withers, a place where spring never ends, where time itself rests. This is the hidden garden of eternal spring. This is the hook of the tale, paradise not in the heavens but on earth, a promise of life in the midst of death, of beauty in the heart of barrenness, the kind of story that keeps wanderers walking just one more mile, one more night, chasing the shimmer of hope. Picture it, a caravan stumbling under the heat, the camels groaning, the men exhausted, their lips cracked, their eyes dim, when suddenly the leader halts, pointing ahead, and there it is, green against the gold, palm trees swaying, flowers blooming, water glimmering like silver. Their hearts leap, their feet quicken, they rush forward, the smell of jasmine filling their nostrils, the sound of water rushing into their ears, and for a moment, paradise is real. The Arabian Nights wove such visions with care, for the desert was the perfect canvas for miracles. Where emptiness reigned, any promise of abundance felt divine. Scheherazade described hidden gardens as gifts of the unseen, guarded by spirits or jinn or fate itself, places where mortals could glimpse eternity, but only if their hearts were pure. Close your eyes and feel it, the cool shade of trees against your skin, the sweet scent of oranges and roses, the sound of fountains spilling into marble basins, the taste of honey dripping from figs, the soft grass beneath your feet. In this place time slows, the desert forgotten, pain erased, every breath a blessing. One tale tells of a prince who sought the garden not for himself, but for his dying people. His kingdom struck by famine, his heart heavy, he wandered the desert for 40 days, guided only by faith, until one night the stars formed a path of silver light, leading him to a gate of stone carved with ancient words. Beyond it lay the garden, its beauty overwhelming, yet when he tried to carry its fruit home, it turned to dust. The lesson was clear, paradise cannot be stolen, it must be lived. Another tale speaks of a poor woman who stumbled upon the garden while searching for her lost son. Her tears fell on the sand, and where they landed, the ground opened, revealing streams of water. She entered, her boy safe within, the garden welcoming her because her love was pure. Here the story teaches that eternal spring is not only for kings, but for hearts that endure with love. Scheherazade's genius was in using the garden as both symbol and sanctuary. She offered the king listening to her a vision of what peace could be, what mercy could create, a kingdom where cruelty was forgotten, where fear had no place, where every breath was filled with abundance. She reminded him that a ruler's true power is not in the sword, but in creating gardens for his people, places of safety, of plenty, of eternal spring. The garden was not only a dream, it carried echoes of real places, ancient oases hidden deep in the desert, cities that thrived around them, life blooming where none should. For travelers who found them, it was a miracle. The sudden coolness, the scent of water in the air before it was seen, the way birds circled above palms long before the trees were visible, these sights became the seeds of myth, growing into stories of eternal spring. Can you see it, the gates of the garden rising out of the sand, carved with patterns of vines and flowers, glowing faintly in the moonlight, the air cooler as you step closer, the silence broken by the sound of running water? You step inside, and the desert vanishes, replaced by a world of green, of gold, of life untouched by time. The lessons of these tales reach beyond wonder. They remind us that true paradise cannot be conquered, cannot be claimed by force or greed. It opens only to those who seek with humility, those who endure with love, those who carry purity in their hearts. Every listener understood this, from the humblest merchant to the mightiest king. Imagine the king listening in his chamber, Scheherazade's voice painting visions of eternal gardens, the scent of roses so real he almost breathes it, the sound of fountains so vivid he almost hears it, and within his heart a spark of longing, not for conquest, but for peace, not for blood, but for abundance. In these moments her story is more than survival, it is transformation, planting seeds of mercy where once only rage grew. Legends say that the hidden garden appears only when the world needs it, vanishing when greed approaches, opening when love leads, its streams fed by the tears of the pure, its fruits ripened by the hope of the weary, its gates guarded by silence. This is why it remains hidden. For true paradise is not a place, it is a choice, a way of life. Close your eyes and breathe. The cool air of the garden fills your lungs, heavy with jasmine and mint. Your hands brush against soft leaves, your ears filled with the murmur of water, your heart lighter, your soul calmer. This is eternal spring, not a myth, but a feeling, a reminder that even in the harshest deserts, beauty waits. And so the tale ends with the garden closing its gates once more, leaving only echoes in the sand, but the lesson endures. Kingdoms may rise and fall, deserts may swallow cities, but as long as hearts seek peace, the garden will return, hidden yet eternal. As dawn rises over the palace, Scheherazada's voice fades, the king silent, his heart stirred by the vision of paradise not conquered by force, but opened by love. He spares her again, longing to hear more, for each night her stories open gates within him. And now we leave the sweetness of the garden and step into something darker, for not all who walk the desert find paradise, some find curses, some find doom. The desert at night is a place of silence, but not all silence is empty, some silence is heavy, alive, waiting. Travelers whisper of a sound carried on the wind, faint bells, the creak of leather, the low moan of camels. But when they look, the sands are empty, nothing moves, yet the sound grows closer. A line of shadows appears against the horizon, shapes swaying, torches flickering pale blue. A caravan that does not belong to the living. This is the caravan of ghosts. This is the hook of the tale. Not all who wander the desert return. Some remain, cursed to march forever under the stars, their treasures gleaming in the moonlight, their voices lost in the wind, their eyes hollow as they wander between life and death. The caravan of ghosts is both warning and wonder, a story to chill the heart and ignite the imagination. Picture it, a merchant caravan in life, hundreds of camels laden with silks, spices, ivory and gold, their bells ringing as they cross the dunes, their fires bright at night, their laughter filling the air. Then a storm comes, fierce and merciless, the sky black, the wind screaming, sand rising like walls, the caravan swallowed, men and beasts buried in an instant, their cries lost to the roar, and when the storm ends only dunes remain, yet their journey is not finished, for their souls march. So, the Arabian Nights often spoke of cursed travelers, of those who let greed or arrogance blind them, and the caravan of ghosts was a tale told to remind listeners of the cost of pride. Scheherazade painted pictures of pale figures swaying on endless marches, their silks tattered, their gold spilling but never taken, their torches burning with fire that gave no warmth, the desert holding them forever. Close your eyes and imagine standing alone on the sand, the moon high, the air cool, then you hear it, the soft jingle of bells, faint but steady, you smell smoke though no fire burns, your skin prickles, and from the horizon emerges a line of shadows, tall and slow, their shapes blurred, their faces hidden, their eyes glowing faint like stars, their camels stepping without sound, the air around them colder than night. One tale tells of a wandering scholar who saw the caravan and followed it, hoping to find the treasure it carried. He walked for days, never catching up, the shapes always ahead, the torches always glowing. When he fell to his knees in exhaustion, the caravan finally turned, its faces revealed, hollow eyes staring, their mouths moving in silence, and the scholar realized too late he had followed death itself. When morning came, his body was found in the sand, his footprints ending where no caravan stood. Another story speaks of a shepherd who lost his flock and cried out for help. That night the caravan appeared, the ghostly men gesturing toward the horizon, guiding him. He followed in fear but also trust, and by dawn he found his flock safe at an oasis. The caravan gone, the shepherd weeping with gratitude. Here the tale showed that even ghosts may act with mercy, for not all curses are cruel. Scheherazade's genius was in showing both sides, the caravan as punishment for greed, but also as mystery, as beings caught between, sometimes warning, sometimes helping. Her words painted the desert not as emptiness but as a stage, alive with the unseen, every dune a curtain, every shadow a secret. The caravan also taught a lesson: treasures mean nothing when life is lost. The silks and gold carried by the ghosts gleam in moonlight but are untouchable, they fall from camels, spill onto the sand, yet vanish when grasped, illusions reminding that greed binds the soul, while humility frees it. Imagine the king listening, the lamp flickering in his chamber, Scheherazade's voice low, her eyes calm, the image of ghostly travelers filling his mind. He feels the chill of their march, he smells the phantom smoke, and within him a quiet fear stirs, not the fear of swords but of emptiness, of pride leading to ruin, her story planting another seed of wisdom. Can you feel it now, the wind brushing your skin cold though the night is warm? Can you hear the bells, soft, steady, unending? Can you see the faint glow of torches, not orange but pale blue, swaying as they move? Can you taste the dryness in your mouth, fear mixing with awe? Can you sense the weight of centuries in their steps, always walking, never arriving? Legend said the caravan of ghosts could sometimes be seen at the edge of oases, always silent, always watching, their presence a warning that water and wealth are fragile, that life must be cherished. Others said to follow them was to vanish, taken into their march forever, your soul bound to their line, your voice lost in the desert wind. Scheherazade told these tales not only to frighten but to remind. Every listener understood the meaning. Greed and arrogance bury men, but loyalty and humility keep them safe. Caravans that share survive, caravans that hoard are lost. The message clear beneath the shimmer of the story. And yet the beauty of the caravan cannot be denied, their march under the stars, their silence haunting, their treasures glowing, their presence a mixture of fear and wonder, the kind of sight that chills yet captivates, reminding us that the desert holds mysteries greater than kings or crowns. As the tale draws to its close, dawn rises, the ghostly march fades with the stars, the wind erases their footprints, silence returns, and Scheherazade lets her words linger like the echo of bells. The king sits silent, uneasy but thoughtful, once more her life spared, her story victorious. And so the caravan of ghosts vanishes into memory, leaving us to wonder what lies beyond shadows, what other mysteries wait in silence. The moon rises full and silver, the desert quiets, and in a small courtyard a woman sits before a loom, her fingers moving gracefully, her threads shimmering under the night sky. Each strand glows faintly as if spun from moonlight itself, and as the shuttle moves back and forth, patterns begin to form, not of flowers or birds, but of stories, entire tales woven into silk, images alive with movement. Her tapestries do not merely show pictures, they breathe, they whisper, they tell. This is the weaver of moonlit stories. This is the hook of the tale, a woman who does not speak with words, but with threads. Every tapestry she weaves is a story given form, and those who look upon her work feel as if they are living within it, stepping into deserts, palaces, oceans, and dreams. She is not only an artist, she is a keeper of memory, a guardian of tales, her loom a gateway to worlds beyond. Picture her courtyard, lit only by lanterns and the silver glow of the moon, the scent of jasmine heavy in the air, the quiet hum of crickets filling the silence. Her hands move without pause, the loom creaking softly, the silk sliding smooth, each thread catching the moonlight like water. On the tapestry grows the image of a caravan crossing dunes, the camels swaying, the men shouting, the sky blazing orange, and as the watchers gaze, they swear they hear the bells of camels, they feel the heat of the sun, they taste the dust of the desert. The Arabian Nights told often of storytellers, but here was one unlike any other. Scheherazade herself wove with words, but the weaver of moonlit stories wove with silk, her tales silent yet alive, her audience spellbound without a single word spoken. Her art revealed that stories are not bound to voice or ink, they live in every form, carried by whatever hands dare to shape them. Close your eyes and feel it, the cool night air brushing your skin, the faint rustle of palm leaves, the sound of thread snapping tight as it is pulled, the shimmer of colors shifting with every flick of her wrist, the sense that the tapestry before you is more than cloth, it is alive, it is a window opening into another world. One tale speaks of a king who visited her, curious about her gift. He demanded she weave his future. She nodded silently, her hands flying across the loom, thread after thread glowing silver, gold, crimson, until at last the tapestry showed a crown fallen into dust, a falcon soaring above broken walls. The king grew angry, tearing the cloth, yet as years passed the image came true. His pride destroyed his throne, his crown lost, his falcon the only symbol remembered. The tapestry had spoken truth. Another tale tells of a child who wandered into her courtyard, frightened, lost, crying. She welcomed him without words, weaving through the night. When dawn came the boy stood before a tapestry of his family, their faces smiling, their arms open. The child followed the path woven into the cloth and found his way home. Here the story showed her gift not only as prophecy, but as kindness, guiding the lost, comforting the broken. Scheherazade's brilliance was in using the weaver as her mirror, for she too was weaving each night, not with silk, but with words, her loom the tongue, her threads the stories, her patterns the lessons. She wanted her king to see that stories themselves are eternal cloth, binding lives together, carrying truth beyond time. Imagine standing in the courtyard as the crowd gathers, merchants, soldiers, children, all hushed as the tapestry grows, their eyes wide, their breaths held, the colors shifting in the moonlight, one moment showing oceans, waves crashing, ships tossed, the next moment a palace rising from mist, its towers shining. The people lean forward, their hearts racing, for they are no longer in the courtyard, they are inside the story. Can you see it, the loom tall and ancient, carved with symbols, the threads shining like strands of stars, the weaver's face calm, her eyes steady, her hands moving faster than the eye can follow? Can you hear the faint sound of a song, not from her lips, but from the threads themselves, vibrating with life, carrying whispers of old stories? Legend said her loom was given by the moon itself, a gift of light, and her duty was to weave truth, not lies. This is why kings feared her, for her tapestries revealed what words concealed, her cloth showed not what men wanted, but what was. Her work was both blessing and curse, beauty and warning. Scheherazade told her king that the weaver lived far away, hidden from greed, for men sought her tapestries to know their fates, to capture their legacies, yet every time they tried to steal her cloth, it turned to dust in their hands. Only those who came with humility saw its power endure. The lesson was clear: wisdom cannot be seized, stories cannot be forced, they must be received with patience, with humility, with open hearts. Her tale was both parable and mirror, her way of showing the king that her nightly stories, like the weaver's cloth, were not weapons but gifts, gifts he must choose to cherish. Close your eyes and imagine touching the tapestry, your fingers brushing the threads, feeling warmth as if from sunlight, the images shifting under your hand, alive, the smell of silk sharp and sweet, the sense that if you step just a little closer you might fall through, into the desert, the ocean, the palace, the dream. The people said that when the weaver died, her loom vanished, lifted into the sky by the moon, and that is why the silver threads still stretch above us. The stars themselves, the last tapestry she ever wove, a reminder that stories are eternal, they live not only on earth, but in the heavens. Scheherazade ended this tale softly, her voice low, the lamps dim, the king leaning forward, his heart caught by the image of a woman weaving truth into silk, his mind stirred by the thought that perhaps stories are not entertainment, but mirrors showing him himself, his faults, his hope, his chance for redemption. And so the weaver of moonlit stories fades into silence, her loom still humming in memory, her tapestry still alive in imagination, her gift eternal. Now we leave the quiet courtyard and climb higher, for the next tale takes us upward into stone and sky, to a tower that dared to touch the clouds. The horizon is broken, the desert flat and endless, yet rising from its center is something impossible, a tower of stone and glass so tall its peak disappears into mist, its walls glowing in the light of dawn, its shadow stretching across miles of sand. This is no ordinary tower, it is said to pierce the heavens, to touch the very clouds, the tower that touched the clouds. Imagine standing at its base, craning your neck until it aches, and still you cannot see its end, your heart pounding with awe and fear, for you know no mortal hands alone could have built such a wonder. This is the hook of the tale, a tower that is not merely stone, but ambition made solid, pride carved into the sky, a monument to mankind's hunger for greatness, and yet also a warning, for what rises too high may also fall too far. Picture it, the foundations carved deep into rock, stones so massive they seem impossible to move, polished surfaces gleaming in the sun, stairs spiraling upward into infinity. Inside are halls of marble, columns etched with golden designs, windows cut so high they look out not on land, but on clouds drifting like rivers. Those who entered the tower said their voices echoed forever, footsteps ringing like thunder, air cool and thin, as if the heavens themselves pressed down. The Arabian Nights often spoke of wonders built by kings, palaces of gold, cities of crystal, but the tower stood apart, for it was not only a home, not only a fortress but a challenge to the divine. Men said it was built to rival the heavens, to climb where mortals should never go. Some whispered it was raised by jinn, forced into labor. Others said it was carved by a king whose pride knew no limit. Close your eyes and feel it, the cold wind rushing at such heights, the stones beneath your feet trembling with power, the scent of rain though the desert below is dry, the dizzying sense of standing between earth and sky, each step upward a test, each breath a prayer. One tale tells of a king who commanded the tower to be built, declaring that no god nor spirit would rule him, only his own hand. Thousands labored, their sweat and blood staining the stone, and when at last the tower reached the clouds he climbed to its peak, shouting his defiance. But lightning split the sky, thunder roared, the tower shook, and the king fell, his crown tumbling down, lost forever in the sand. The tower remained, broken yet proud, a warning carved in stone. Another tale speaks of travelers who found refuge in the tower, climbing high to escape a flood, their lives saved by its height, its halls echoing with their prayers. When the waters receded, they descended, carrying stories of safety and miracles, and so the tower was seen not only as pride, but as mercy, a gift both feared and honored. Scheherazade told of the tower to stir her king, her voice rising like the tower itself, reminding him of the danger of ambition without wisdom, of pride without compassion, but also of the strength that comes from building, from reaching upward not in arrogance, but in hope. Her tale held both edges, like a sword, sharp enough to cut in either direction. Imagine the people who lived in its shadow, each day looking upward, their eyes straining, their hearts swelling with pride yet heavy with unease. The tower a blessing and a curse, a symbol of greatness, but also of the fragility of men who dared to reach too far. Can you see the clouds drifting low across its face, wrapping it in mist, lightning flickering above, birds circling high, their cries lost in the roar of wind? Legend said that those who reached its peak could see not only the land but time itself, past and future spread before them like a tapestry. One step into the heavens granting vision of destiny, yet few returned from such heights, the climb too long, the air too thin, their bodies left in silence. their eyes staring forever at the sky. Close your eyes and feel the climb, the rough stone steps beneath your sandals, the walls narrowing as you rise, the torches flickering weakly, the air thinning, your breath shallow, the scent of storm growing stronger, the sense of eyes unseen watching, each step upward pulling you farther from earth, closer to something vast, something eternal. The tower was both dream and danger, symbol of mankind's hunger to rise, warning of the fall that follows pride. The Arabian Nights used it as a mirror, showing listeners that ambition without wisdom is destruction. Yet ambition tempered by faith can save. Her king, hearing this tale, would feel both awe and caution, his heart stirred by visions of towers and clouds, his mind warned by the fall of crowns. And still, the beauty of the tower cannot be denied, its walls shining at sunset, painted gold and crimson, its shadow stretching like a river across the dunes, its presence overwhelming, its silence heavy with stories, a monument to human hands, to human pride, to human dreams. Scheherazade ended this tale as dawn crept into her chamber, her voice fading like mist, the king silent, lost in thought, his pride pricked, his curiosity burning. He spared her again, eager for the next story. For each night she built her own tower, not of stone, but of words, climbing closer to his heart. And so the tower that touched the clouds stands eternal in imagination, its stones alive with lessons, its shadow stretching across centuries, reminding us all that to rise is noble, but to forget humility is ruin. Now we leave the heights of stone and clouds and descend into something darker, for hidden among deserts and palaces lies an artifact more dangerous than ambition, a mask that gives glory at a terrible cost. The palace is empty, its halls filled with dust and silence, the torches long burned out, yet in the center of the throne room lies an object glimmering faintly under the moonlight, a mask, carved of gold and obsidian, its eyes hollow, its mouth frozen in a cruel smile. This is not a relic of beauty, but of warning, for legends say the mask once belonged to a mighty sultan whose name no man remembers, his face erased by time, his power lost, only the mask remains, whispering of glory and ruin. This is the hook of the tale, a mask that promises greatness, but demands a price, an object that carries both allure and danger, for whoever wears it feels power surge through their veins, the voice of command on their tongue, the gaze of kings in their eyes, but beneath the surface waits a curse, one that strips away not only mercy but memory, until nothing remains but shadow. Picture it, the sultan in his prime, his armies vast, his palaces glittering, his throne higher than any before, yet his hunger grows, he seeks to be more than man, to be eternal, to be feared beyond death, and so he turns to sorcery, summoning smiths and mystics to craft a mask of impossible beauty, its gold polished like sunlight, its black stone cold as midnight. They whisper ancient words into its making, binding it with power, and when he places it upon his face, the earth itself trembles. His voice deepens, his commands irresistible. At first the mask seems gift, his enemies fall, his subjects kneel, his empire expands, he stands in triumph, the mask gleaming on his face, yet slowly the whispers begin, not from courtiers, but from the mask itself, soft at first, then louder, a voice in his mind urging cruelty, demanding blood, praising conquest, mocking mercy. The sultan obeys, his heart hardening, his soul fading. Scheherazade's voice would linger here, her tone hushed, her words deliberate, for she knew the king listening to her understood this temptation. The hunger for power, the danger of pride. She described the mask's glow, the way it caught torchlight like flame, the way its hollow eyes seemed alive, watching, judging, waiting. Close your eyes and feel it, the weight of the mask in your hands, cold against your skin, heavier than gold should be, the smell of metal sharp, the faint sound of whispers brushing against your ears, urging you, tempting you, your heart racing as if the object itself has life, your breath quickening, your mind caught between awe and fear. One tale tells of a young soldier who stumbled upon the mask after the fall of the Sultan's palace. He placed it upon his face in secret, and at once his comrades obeyed him, his voice carrying command, his eyes burning with strange light. Yet within days he grew harsh, his laughter cruel, his kindness gone, until finally he vanished into the desert, the mask taking him where no man follows, his name erased like the Sultan's. Another tale tells of a woman who found the mask buried beneath stones. She did not wear it, but carried it to her village. There it brought wealth, crops flourished, rains came, yet in return the villagers grew suspicious, greedy, fighting among themselves until their homes burned, their people scattered, and the mask lay once again in ashes, untouched, its whispers victorious. Scheherazade's genius lay in weaving the mask as more than object. It was symbol, a reminder that power without compassion destroys, that ambition without wisdom erases, that to wear the mask is to forget the self, to lose name, face and soul. She wanted her king to hear the danger of pride in every whispered word. Imagine walking through the ruined palace where the mask lies, the air stale, the scent of dust thick, the moonlight falling through broken arches, the silence broken only by the hiss of wind, and there it is gleaming faintly, untouched by time, its hollow eyes fixed on you, your hand trembling as you reach for it, a chill crawling up your spine. Can you see the mask now, golden surface polished, black stone gleaming, its smile thin, cruel, its eyes empty yet alive? Can you hear the whispers urging you to take it, promising power, promising eternity? Can you feel the cold against your skin as you lift it closer? Can you taste the bitterness in the air, sharp as iron? The forgotten sultan was not destroyed by armies, nor betrayed by allies, but by the mask he chose to wear, his ambition devouring him, his face lost, his name erased, his empire crumbled. And yet the mask remained, as if mocking him, as if waiting for another fool to place it on their face, to repeat the cycle. Scheherazada's story struck deep, for the king listening knew the hunger for control, the weight of suspicion, the lure of dominance, but her tale whispered warning, reminding him that to rule with cruelty is to vanish, to be forgotten, to be erased until only symbols remain, names lost, legacies broken. She reminded him that mercy, not fear, keeps a name alive. And still, the mask fascinates, its beauty undeniable, its danger irresistible, it gleams in imagination, a relic of both power and ruin, the kind of object that haunts stories, that lingers in memory, that feels alive even in silence. Close your eyes one last time and imagine leaving the palace, the mask still there, gleaming faintly, the wind rising, carrying whispers across the dunes, whispers that promise greatness, whispers that echo even now, but you turn away, your heart wiser, your steps stronger, the mask remains for another time, another story, its curse unbroken. And so the tale of the forgotten sultan ends not with triumph, but with warning, his crown lost, his name erased, his mask eternal, a lesson carved not in stone but in memory. Now we leave the mask and follow another throne, one carved not of gold but of serpents, a seat of power more terrifying still, a kingdom feared for its blood and rituals. The sun burns red above the horizon, the desert glows like fire, and in the very heart of that wasteland rises a throne unlike any other, carved not of wood, not of gold, but of stone shaped into writhing serpents, their bodies coiling upward, their fangs bared, their eyes gleaming with gems that flash like living fire. This is the serpent throne of the Red Desert, a seat of power feared by kings, whispered about by merchants, avoided by travelers, for it is said whoever dares to sit upon it will rule with great strength, but at a price written in blood. This is the hook of the tale. Not all thrones are symbols of peace or justice. Some are born from terror, from fear, from rituals darker than the night. The serpent throne was one such seat, cursed and worshipped at once. A reminder that power often comes dressed as glory but hides teeth in its smile. Picture it, the throne towering in a hall of sandstone, torches burning with green flame, shadows dancing on walls carved with scales, the air heavy with incense, thick and bitter, the sound of rattles echoing as if snakes still moved within the stone. A ruler sits there, his robes crimson, his crown low, his hand gripping the armrest where the serpent's head waits, its jeweled eyes glowing. His subjects kneel, their foreheads pressed to the floor, too afraid to look up, too afraid to meet his gaze. The Arabian Nights spoke often of strange kingdoms, yet none as feared as the Red Desert, a place of endless dunes and crimson rocks where serpents were worshipped as gods, their venom feared, their patience admired, their hunger respected. It was here that the throne was built, by a people who believed the spirit of the serpent would protect them, guard their wealth, punish their enemies, and bless their ruler with endless might. Close your eyes and feel it, the heat of the desert pressing against your skin, the air dry as bone, the smell of smoke and dust clinging to your lungs, the weight of silence as you step into the throne hall, only the hiss of wind, the glow of torches and the sensation of eyes unseen watching, the serpents carved into stone almost alive, their scales catching light, their mouths open as if ready to strike. One tale tells of the first king who sat upon the throne, a conqueror who ruled not through love but through terror. When he touched the serpent's head, he felt power surge through his veins, his enemies fell before him, his armies unstoppable. But with each victory his humanity faded, his eyes grew cold, his smile twisted, his heart poisoned by cruelty. In time he trusted no one, not even his family, and when he died, the people said the serpents took his soul, binding it to the stone forever. Another tale tells of a queen who tried to break the throne's curse. She ordered it destroyed, but each time the hammer struck, the stone bled, crimson rivulets dripping down the coils, the workers fled in terror, and the throne remained whole, its eyes glowing brighter, its presence heavier, as if mocking the attempt. The queen herself vanished soon after, some said swallowed by the desert, Others claimed the throne demanded her as sacrifice. Scheherazade told this story carefully, her voice weaving images of the throne's beauty and horror. She wanted her king to see that thrones built on fear do not endure, that rulers who sit in cruelty may shine for a moment, but their legacy becomes poison, their names forgotten, their souls devoured. She let the image of serpents slither into his mind, whispering warnings with every hiss. Imagine the rituals performed around the throne, priests in red robes carrying bowls of venom, their chants low, their eyes wide, torches flickering green shadows, the smell of burning herbs filling the hall, warriors kneeling as serpents slither across their arms, testing their courage, merchants offering gold to keep the throne's blessing, the air thick with dread and reverence. Can you see it, the ruler seated, his hand resting on the serpent's stone head, his eyes glowing faint in the torchlight, his subjects trembling, afraid to breathe? Can you hear the hiss that echoes though no living serpent is seen? Can you taste the dryness of fear on your tongue, sharp as venom? The throne was more than furniture, it was alive in the minds of those who served it, each generation bound tighter to its curse, its legend spreading across deserts and seas. Merchants spoke of it in hushed tones, sailors claimed its shadow stretched into their dreams, kings envied its power yet feared its price, and so it remained, feared but never abandoned. Scheherazade reminded her king that such power is illusion, that rulers who build their thrones on fear build them on sand. Sooner or later the desert swallows, the serpents devour, the people turn away, only mercy and justice endure. Her story carried this truth beneath its horror, a lesson hidden in the coils of the serpent. Close your eyes again and imagine the final scene, the throne empty, the hall silent, the torches burned out, yet the throne still gleams faintly, its jeweled eyes glowing in the dark, the hiss of wind carrying through the chamber like the breath of a serpent waiting, its coils patient, eternal, its hunger endless. And so the tale of the serpent throne closes, not with triumph, but with dread, a warning that fear devours itself, that no throne cursed with cruelty stands forever. Now we leave the desert throne behind and travel to the sea, for the next tale carries us across waves that remember, an ocean that whispers names. The sea is calm, the waves gentle, the horizon wide and endless, yet beneath its silence lies something alive, something ancient, for sailors whisper of an ocean that listens, an ocean that does not forget. They say when the wind is still and the moon rides high, the water whispers names, names of those lost to the waves, names of those who dared cross and never returned. This is the ocean that remembered names. This is the hook of the tale. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship, the night cool, the stars bright, when suddenly you hear it, a voice carried on the tide, faint but clear, a name, perhaps your own, perhaps someone you loved. The hair on your neck rises, your breath catches, you lean closer, and the waves rise higher, as if answering, as if calling. Picture it, sailors gathered on deck, their faces pale, their eyes wide, some crossing themselves, some whispering prayers. The sea glows faint silver under the moon, the wind quiet, and then as the ship drifts, the voices come, soft at first, then stronger, names rolling like echoes, each one a memory, each one a story, the air thick with salt and sorrow, the sound sharp as knives. The Arabian Nights spoke often of seas that lived, seas filled with wonders and terrors, islands that vanished, whirlpools that swallowed fleets, monsters that rose from the deep, but the ocean that remembered names was different. It was not beast nor storm, but memory itself, alive in water, carrying every name it had taken, every life it had swallowed, never letting go. Close your eyes and feel it, the rocking of the ship beneath your feet, the spray of salt on your lips, the creak of wood, the faint hiss of waves against the hull, and then, beneath it all, a whisper, a name clear and sharp, a name you know, a name you fear to hear, the ocean remembering, the ocean reminding. One tale tells of a merchant fleet that set sail with holds full of gold, confident in their wealth, proud in their numbers, yet when they reached the center of the remembering sea, the waves grew calm, too calm, the wind ceased, and in the silence the water spoke, name after name of sailors who had drowned before. The crew panicked, their minds breaking, some leapt overboard, drawn to voices of wives, children, friends, until the fleet was gone, swallowed not by storm but by memory. Another tale speaks of a lonely fisherman who heard the ocean call his father's name. Long dead at sea, instead of fear he felt comfort, he lowered his nets and whispered back, and when he pulled them in they overflowed with fish, the sea rewarding his humility. Here the ocean was not curse but blessing, remembering love as well as loss. Scheherazade told this tale with care, her voice soft as waves, her eyes steady. She wanted her king to feel the weight of memory, to understand that no cruelty, no death, no act of power is ever erased. The ocean remembers, and so too does the world. She reminded him that deeds echo, that names endure, that to rule with cruelty is to be whispered as warning, to rule with mercy is to be remembered as blessing. Imagine standing at the railing, the moonlight on your face, the smell of salt heavy in your nose, the wind brushing softly, and then hearing it, the name of someone you wronged, the name of someone you lost, the voice so clear it makes your eyes sting, your chest tighten, the ocean not cruel but honest, giving back the memory you tried to bury. Can you see it now, the waves glowing silver, the surface shifting like glass, the faces faint, shimmering below, eyes watching, lips moving, not bodies, not corpses, but memories alive, carried in water? Can you hear the rhythm, the names rising and falling with each swell, like a chant, like a hymn, eternal and unbroken? Legend said the ocean carried every name ever spoken on its shores, every cry for help, every song of joy, every whisper of love, all of it remembered, never lost. Some said this was why sailors sang on long voyages, their voices offerings to the sea, a way of giving it names willingly so it would not take them by force. Scheherazade used the story as mirror, her own voice like the sea, remembering, reminding, carrying names in her tale so they would not be lost. She wanted her king to understand that his deeds would live beyond him, remembered by his people, by his children, by the very earth. His name could be blessing or curse, depending on the life he chose. Close your eyes again and hear it, the soft crash of waves against rock, the endless rhythm, steady, eternal, beneath it the names rising, some familiar, some strange, each one sharp as a blade, each one soft as a kiss. Can you feel the chill in your bones, the weight of being remembered, whether you wish it or not? And so the ocean that remembered names became both fear and comfort, feared by sailors for its voices, cherished by mourners for its memory. It was reminder that nothing is truly lost, that names live on, that water carries them forever. As dawn rises in the story, the sea grows quiet, the voices fade, the ship drifts on, the sailors silent, their faces pale, their hearts heavy, yet within them a new humility, a new reverence, for they know the ocean watches, the ocean remembers. Scheherazade lets her words linger, like waves rolling slowly back, the king silent, his own heart stirred, perhaps hearing names in his memory, names of those he wronged, names of those he lost, her story sparing her life once more, her wisdom planting deeper roots. And so the tale closes, the ocean vast, eternal, alive with whispers, reminding us that nothing is forgotten, not love, not loss, not cruelty, not kindness, everything lives on, carried by the tide, remembered forever. Now we leave the sea and return to the voice that began it all, for beyond oceans and deserts and thrones, one fire still burns, the fire of stories themselves, carried by Scheherazade, eternal as memory. The chamber is dark, the lamps burning low, the night heavy with silence. Yet at the center of that silence glows a flame, not from oil, not from wood, but from words, a fire that flickers in the air each time a story is spoken, each time a name is remembered, each time a heart listens. This is the eternal fire of Scheherazade, a fire that never dies, that burns not in the palace alone but in the hearts of all who hear her tales. This is the hook of the tale, the greatest secret of the Arabian Nights, that stories themselves are flame, that they warm, they burn, they guide, they consume, and when wielded with love they save lives. When wielded with cruelty they destroy. Scheherazade's fire is eternal because it was never hers alone, it was given, shared, carried, passed into every soul that listened. Picture her, sitting before the king, her face calm though her life hangs by a thread, her voice soft yet steady, each word a spark, each sentence a flame, the king leaning forward, his eyes sharp but softening, his heart caught though he does not know it. Each night he thinks he listens for distraction, yet in truth he listens for light, for the fire she gives, the fire that warms his frozen soul. The Arabian Nights is more than tales of adventure, it is survival woven into firelight. Scheherazade lit her lamp each night not only to see, but to remind the king of warmth, to remind him that cruelty is cold, that love is heat, that mercy is flame. She gave him not one story but 1,000, and in doing so she built a fire that could not be put out. Close your eyes and feel it, the warmth of flame on your skin, the glow dancing on marble walls, the faint crackle of oil in the lamp, the smell of smoke and rosewater mixing, and beneath it the rhythm of her voice, steady, glowing, her words like sparks carried on the wind, each one catching, each one spreading, each one refusing to die. One tale says that when Scheherazade finally finished her 1,000th night, the king looked upon her and saw not a prisoner, not a trickster, but the keeper of flame. He realized that her fire had burned away his rage, burned away his suspicion, left only the embers of love, mercy, and wisdom. He spared her, not because of law, but because the fire she gave him was too precious to extinguish. Another tale says that when she left this world, her fire did not fade, it rose into the air, carried by breath, by voice, by ink, by memory, and wherever her stories are told, the flame appears again, glowing in the eyes of children, warming the hearts of dreamers, guiding the weary through their nights, the fire eternal. Scheherazada's genius was never in the length of her stories, nor even in their wonder, but in her ability to make them burn, to make them live. Her words were not dead ink, they were sparks, alive, catching on hearts. She knew that stories are fire, and fire is never still, it moves, it grows, it spreads, and in spreading it becomes eternal. Imagine the king in those final moments, the dawn creeping through lattice windows, the fire of the lamps fading, yet within him the flame of her words burning brighter. He touches his chest and feels it, the warmth, the light. He understands that she has given him more than distraction, more than survival. She has given him eternity, for fire does not belong to one, it belongs to all it touches. Can you see it now, the flame glowing in the dark chamber, small yet powerful, its light falling on her face, her eyes reflecting it, her voice carrying it, the king staring as if seeing the sun for the first time, the guards frozen, their hands lowering from their swords, the silence heavy, the fire alive. The eternal fire of Scheherazade is not bound to palaces, it leaps across time, across oceans, across languages. Wherever the Arabian Nights is told, the fire rekindles, in marketplaces where merchants share tales, in libraries where readers lose themselves in pages, in homes where children fall asleep listening, the fire glows, eternal. Close your eyes again and imagine the fire in your own chest, warm, steady, alive, fed by every story you ever loved, every lesson you ever carried, every dream you ever followed. Scheherazade's fire is in you too, in me, in all of us, a flame that binds across centuries, across worlds. And so the story of the Arabian Nights ends not with silence, but with flame, a fire eternal, carried by a woman who refused despair, who chose love, who turned words into survival, who turned survival into wisdom. Her fire lights our path still, her fire reminds us that stories are stronger than swords, that mercy is stronger than cruelty, that love endures longer than fear. Scheherazade's voice grows quiet now, the king's heart soft, the night fading, yet the fire does not fade, it leaps forward into the future, into our time, into our voices, eternal. And so the tale closes, but not truly, for fires never close, they only pass, and this fire passes now to you, to carry, to keep, to share. Thus ends the 1,000 Nights in One, but the fire burns on,